y'all. Here's our intro.
I had the sound dipping. Hello and welcome to Our Ludicrous Future. This is the podcast where we get together like once a year and talk about the cool things happening today that's going to make tomorrow. I'm Joe Scott. I'm coming at you from, I'm thinking 1977 or whatever the newest Wes Anderson film is. With me is Ben Sullins.
Hey guys.
From the present day.
Yeah, from modern day era. No headphones for me today, so hopefully there's no echo. And of course, we always have the everyday astronaut with us as well. Tim, how are you?
I'm great. So happy to see you guys, see your faces. So happy to be catching up. It's been a long time.
It has.
How long has it been? When was the last time we...
Well, I just love that, Joe, you're on set. With Wes Anderson's newest film, 16 Princesses in Paladina's Palace.
Paladina's Palace?
I have no idea. It's, some weird insert witty Wes Anderson film name title.
When was our last video? Let me look. Someone tell us in the chat.
I can't wait. I hope that this is... I'm surprised that we actually did make it onto YouTube with only a small minor hiccup of Ben hitting live before anything or any of us were ready. This is
11 months ago, it says.
Oh my God.
2022 year in review. So we're just gonna do a year in review.
Wow, I guess that's I wasn't joking at the beginning when I said we get together once a year. I do want to say to everybody though, like, we have tried. We've been trying for months now to make something happen.
Yeah.
And it was always like I was out of town or Tim was out of town or whatever. And then literally like 2 days ago, Tim's like, we got to get together for a thing. We're like, okay, and here we are. So
yeah. I think we're trying to go too far out. I think we got to be like, what are you guys doing on Thursday? It has to be like almost just imminent in order for it to work. Yeah. And it's close enough to the holidays that I think most of us are home and hopefully not traveling anytime too soon, and that's nice. But you guys have been traveling some, right? Ben, you were in Japan.
I went to Japan, to the Japan Mobility Show, it's called, with Nissan, to check out some concept cars. It was kind of weird. It was interesting. I posted a video about it. It was kind of an odd thing. Like, every vehicle at the Japan Mobility Show was a concept car. And like there were no real vehicles there. So it got me thinking about, like, what is the point of concept cars? Because I think they had, like, I was there with Nissan, right? They were hosting me, and there was probably 100 or so American journalists, and then there was probably 150 Chinese journalists there. And we were thinking about it, like, you probably spent like $3 million in just travel for everybody to come here.
Oh yeah.
And you're putting on this big show and doing all these events and stuff. Why would you do any of this for a vehicle that's like it's not even a real thing? And it turns out the answer kind of goes back to the 50s when GM started doing this, where they would come out with these concepts and see what people liked. Like maybe they just liked the door handles or something. And then so they would take that one thing that was really stood out in people's minds and then start to integrate that into future models. So it was kind of an interesting thing. The kind of big unveil was this like electric GTR, essentially. They called it the Hyperforce, I think. But it was a cool experience. I'd never been to Asia ever. And so Japan was my first entrance to that. And other than being in Tokyo specifically for 7 days, I would say it was amazing. I really wish I would have had time to get out and go see the countryside or something else, because there's so much to see there. And all I got to see was, the world's most populous city for 7 days straight, which is an amazing, cool place. But, it'd just be nice to have a more diverse experience. So.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Tokyo's like, I've spent 2 24-hour, like, just long layovers, where I get out, go to a hotel and stay and walk around for, like 5 hours or something, or 6 hours, twice. I've done that now. Here
were
just crazy.
2 things, maybe 3 that I took back from there that I actually adopted from their culture. One is they always back into parking spaces. So first off, not many people have cars, but for those that do, which, by the way, if you want to own a car in Tokyo, it might be all of Japan, I don't know, but in Tokyo for sure, you have to prove that you have a parking space. So you have to have a house or a place. They will not sell you a car. Like, let's say you went to buy a car, you have to have like a certificate from the government showing that you are allowed to buy a car.
No way.
Yeah, you can't just like, hoard them up and put them in a warehouse somewhere. You have to have a parking space.
Interesting.
But what they do is they always back in 100% of the time. It's not a law, but anywhere you go where there's cars, they are always backed in. And the reason being is that it's more convenient. Like it's faster when you go to leave to get out of there, and it's then more convenient for the next person coming in. So it's something about their society, their culture. It's like really cool that there is so much consideration for the other person. Now I don't know what happens if you're like an American, jerk like I am and don't do that, but like it may not be too nice to you. But it was just really interesting. So now whenever I park in places and it's not an angled spot or whatever, I often back in because I'm thinking, this is smart. It's easier to get out and just take off like that. So that was one thing. The other thing is that there's no trash in the city, which is insane with that many people. And it's not like they have these giant cleaning crews everywhere. I'm sure there are people that clean up, but there are no trash cans. And so most things are not to go. Like you can't go to a coffee shop and get it to go usually. Like more modern places are, but there's a lot of places where you are not allowed to do to go. And so there's no to go containers. Now, if you do go to say Starbucks or something and then grab a to go container, it's on you. You now must take that trash with you until you get back home. So even if you try to go to a different place and throw it away, they will not let you. Like there's no public trash cans anywhere. So the net effect is, because they have this kind of society where they're very polite and everything else, or very like respectful, they don't just throw their trash everywhere, which you can imagine if you took away all the trash cans and say, a city in the US, it would just be piled with trash in a day. Yeah. So
does that anyway.
Yeah. So I find myself now going to a lot of places like a coffee shop or whatever, and being like, no, I'm gonna eat or drink here. Like I'm gonna sit here and enjoy this.
And
I'm not just gonna be
about it.
back in my car driving, trying to shovel food down my face or something, So
Europe's
very
a similar
cool
way,
cool
where Europe's a similar way where it's so common to, sit and enjoy meals as a thing, or coffee and sit there as opposed to like always on the go. Like I feel like we try to do so much here, and it's really refreshing, and it's nice to try to take some of that mindset home. Yeah. On the trash thing, have you guys ever seen the Wendover show, Jet Lag?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
They did one. Have you heard of it, Ben?
No, I know Wendover Productions. I don't know.
Yeah. So Sam from Wendover does this show. I don't know if it's a couple times a year called Jet Lag. It's like a game.
They're on like season 8. They're about to start season 8 on that.
Yeah, right. It's this really fun game where they like have these different challenges, and they're like, so they did one in Tokyo or in Japan where like you had to go. It was capture the flag, and so you literally are playing across the city of Tokyo using all the public transit system and stuff to literally capture a flag and take it across the city. And one of the challenges, they can get power-ups and do all these fun things. And one of the challenges was like find 3 pieces of trash.
Yeah.
And that was all it was. And like, the person that wrote was like, at first like, oh, this is and they're like, oh, this is
that'd be hard.
Really hard. And they're like looking around. It took them like 20 minutes or something to find 3 tiny, and it'd be bigger than like a piece, bigger than a coin or something. Bigger than
that's so smart they did that. Yeah. Because that's something people probably wouldn't imagine. Right? You'd imagine a city of 37 million people just to be littered. It doesn't matter how clean you are. That's 37 million people. Like there's going to be trash, but no, I
actually have a theory that Japan in particular is actually just everything 20 years in the future.
Well, okay. I will challenge you on that. So the trains are amazing, right? We took trains everywhere we went. So, which, by the way, you're quiet on the train unless you're an American or a Canadian. Like they have like a policy of just like when you're on the train, you're not talking, you're not on your phone, you're just quiet to make it calm for people. But not us loud Americans and Canadians and stuff. So I don't know why I'm looping in Canada to this, but
sorry, Canada.
Sorry, just throw you.
Sorry.
Yeah. But when you go to buy a ticket for the train in Tokyo, it's cash only. Yeah. Cash only. And the only problem with that is that you might be switching from one like company rail line to another. So you may think your ticket's fine, but then you go through the thing and it's like, won't let you. So there was a lot of stuff where, I felt like that. Some things were like, oh, this is the way of the future. But then it's a very cash-based society in a lot of ways. Like taxis only take cash, things like that. And then like smoking is still pretty popular. Like you see lots of restaurants where they have signs outside like this is a smoking restaurant. But still, I remember I walked into a place and thought it was like smoke from a grill or something. No, it was just people smoking. I was like, oh God, get me out of here. Things like that. So in some ways, yeah, it's very futuristic and forward and advanced. And in other ways, it feels like, I don't know, like 50 years ago or something.
See, I spent 2 weeks in Germany, or I guess altogether in Europe. As I spent a few days in Italy and visited a friend down there while I was there. But I was there there's a Space Creator Day event that was really fun, like a big space conference that some of my friends put on. And it was awesome, fun to see and meet people over in Germany, which is super fun. But the takeaway, and I forget this because I've been to Europe quite a bit, but I spent enough time there that I really was soaking it in. Oh, I also visited 2 rocket companies, which I'm making a video about, which is gonna be super fun. But what I take away from Europe, my favorite thing, and I want this to just make it over here, is at night things are dim. Streetlights are nice and calm and dim. Restaurants are nice and calm and dim. And when you go outside from a restaurant, your eyes are already adjusted to nighttime because it's calm and dim. Like in general, like you walk around and it's nighttime. You're not walking into a dentist office, or a surgical room to eat a hamburger, like we are in the United States. So many restaurants just blast you with light everywhere. And I just hate it. Like, so then your eyes get, dilated, or opposite of dilated, whatever.
That's
shrunken. You go outside and you now rely on really bright lights to keep you from being able to see anything. So your headlights are blasting really bright so you can see, because your eyes are, never adjusting to nighttime. And like, it's just, I'm so appreciative of that. And because when I'm home, like, oh my God, at night, like it's a cave in here. I keep it pitch black basically, and
you've not been to Spain, I take it, because they have the worst lighting of any place I've ever been.
I have not actually been to Spain, no, but Germany,
you go there, you will not appreciate the lighting situation. Don't know why, but
like Germany and Amsterdam. I was in Amsterdam earlier this year too, and everything's just like all the hotels know how to light things. All the restaurants.
Yeah, I feel like we're just coming out of COVID. It's like time to travel again.
Yeah.
Joe, I think last trip I heard you going on was Greece, right? Have you guys been anywhere since?
Last year we went to Ireland.
Okay.
I didn't have any really big trips this year. Actually, my wife and her mom did like a bucket list kind of thing to Paris that her mom had never been, so that was kind of nice for them. But I was here. But yeah, we went to Ireland last year. It was really cool. We did one of those adventure tour kind of things along the Wild Atlantic Way is what they call it. Yeah, it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. It was way colder than I thought. It was June, so I just brought shorts and it never got above 50. So I was like, what was I thinking? These are my people. I should know this, but no. The food in Ireland is like rocket hot. I think they actually put them in rocket nozzles and cook it inside of like an F1 or something. But like, yeah, everything I got there was just like it burned my mouth, and then I couldn't taste it for the rest of the day.
Merlin fired pizza oven.
Oh yeah, don't give me any ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Dang.
But that was the last big trip that we took. I'm ashamed to say this, but like the most, the trip that we took this year that stands out the most. Speaking of places that don't light very much, Las Vegas.
God.
How shameful is that? But no, we saw U2 at the Sphere. At that new venue, and I can vouch for it. Anybody that gets a chance to go, it was okay. Want me to do my spiel?
Yeah.
So I went into it thinking it was going to be cool, but also there was this part in the back of my head that was like, because like Vegas. It's Vegas, it's the new gimmick, and U2 is a great band and everything, but they're not above a publicity stunt. I remember that whole Apple thing when they just dropped their album on everybody's phone.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's going to be cool, but it's going to be a cool like publicity stunt, whatever, But it was mind blowing. It was absolutely mind blowing, and I don't use this term lightly. It was almost like a religious experience.
Wow.
I mean, or a spiritual experience maybe, because like at the end, everybody, like I looked around, everybody's eyes were watering. Everybody was just like feeling this whole thing. And it was just like, wow. And like the next day, my wife and I were both just like, I can't stop thinking about that show. That was just the coolest thing.
Wow.
So, but cool. To me, it's more not necessarily about U2. I mean, they put on a good show and everything, but it's like, this is the very first time anybody's done anything in this venue. And I'm just thinking like the stuff they're going to be like the next person's going to go bigger than that. And the next person's going to be bigger than that. And it's going to get like in 5 years out or so, it's going to be like just mind blowing the stuff that they're doing in this venue. And they're building more. I know they've got one building in like London. They want to put several of them around the world, but
maybe
in terms of like a space where you can do like a transformative experience, it was unbelievable.
Maybe we could have the Astro Awards there in the future.
Oh,
I hear it's cheap. It's real cheap.
Yeah, I'm sure. You know, I'm sure from this year's experience, we're going to be scaling up to the Sphere for next year.
Yeah.
Are you guys coming? Joe, you're coming, right? You're going to make it down to Austin.
Yeah.
Ben,
I'm actually working. There's a conference during that time
called the Astro Awards.
No, it's called Intersolar, and so I've pivoted a lot.
You're going to a space conference.
Yeah, well, I'm getting paid, so if you want to match my compensation here, sure. I found this is just a side. I went to Vegas too for a thing called RE Plus, like Renewable Energy Plus, and it was a weird because I've been the car guy forever, and this past year or so I've been switching away from cars to home stuff like home batteries and all that kind of stuff, just because I'm more interested in it, I guess. And I went to this conference and it was like all solar panels and batteries. And I was probably the only content creator in the building, like maybe one or two other people, and then maybe a handful of journalists, because no one really cares about like a new home battery. Like maybe Tesla can get people excited about it, but no one else can.
Right.
And it was just nuts. And so we booked like 4 or 5 gigs out of that one conference. And so I'm going back to Vegas for CES, and we got a couple clients I'm working with there, and then Intersolar is immediately following that. So it's the same time as your thing. So it's really weird. It's kind of a cool new space. I'm so excited to be, I don't know, like helping share these stories, because I think this is the future, is this decentralized grid where we're all off grid and kind of, masters of our own fate, so to speak. Like Joe, I know you got a Powerwall. Did you get that Powerwall, the Enphase?
I got the Power Cell from Generac.
Okay, yeah. So, and it's funny, people might be surprised to learn that Tesla is actually not even near the top in terms of home battery installations out there, because it's all the solar companies, like Generac, Enphase is a big one, those kind of companies. So it's kind of cool to see. But I did get to see at RE Plus the Powerwall 3, but they wouldn't tell me anything about it. It was silly. The award I gave away for the best looking battery was the Duracell battery, which is a home battery that looks exactly like a Duracell battery.
Really?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but it's like a home battery, with the same like copper top type logo.
Cool.
Like, genius. This is genius,
that's
guys.
Cool. Like it's like almost like a water heater sized battery.
No, it wasn't round. It was a flat. It was almost like a 9-volt battery.
9-volt. Okay.
But it's chest high kind of a thing.
Cool.
But I just thought, like, how cool is that? Because everything else is just like a white box on your wall for the most part. Yeah. And this is like, just I thought that was kind of cool. Like, oh, this is the battery for my kid's toy. Here's the battery for my house. Like the same thing, just giant.
Cool.
So yeah.
So you're not coming to the Astro Awards though. Long-winded. So basically, you're saying.
Well, let me ask you a question about the Astro Awards.
Yes.
Shall we? So the Astro Awards is like just a thing you've been doing for a while on your channel, where it's like, I'm gonna like highlight the big things from the last year, and you have some kind of janky award that you kind of glue together from a bouillabaisse of different trophies or whatever.
Exactly.
And this year you're doing a live thing.
Yeah. So we've been like,
people are actually going to be there.
So yeah, we're going to be sending out confirmations. Kind of, we're going to be rolling them out here in the next couple of weeks. Confirmations. I mean, there's some fun special guests that I don't think people are, that they're going to freak out when they learn. We'll be kind of teasing them out here in the next few weeks. But one of the confirmations that we just got is going to make the pre-party really, really, really fun. And we'll just keep it at that for now. We'll announce that soon. But the whole point is, like, I've been doing this forever as like a kind of as a joke, as like a year roundup, but as an idea of like, I want to celebrate the cool missions that made me excited throughout the year. What made me inspired, what was impactful, and what was important, kind of like the 3 I's almost, impactful, important, and inspirational. And, just kind of looking at it from that, not as like there's no categories, there's no like, we do kind of award, like we kind of save the best for last, is like what I think was the most, personally / like what the community votes is like the most important thing. But otherwise, we kind of just set out like, what are the 10 coolest things of the year in space flight and space science? And, we've said forever, like, how cool would it be if we actually got these people in a room and like got them up on stage, gave them a physical, actual, real award, not like a joke, and live streamed it and actually, did like a Grammys and Emmys, like an actual proper award show, like a red carpet and everything. And that's what we're doing. Like we went all in on it. And it's scary. It's terrifying because it's more money down on this than I put down on my house, like, but it's going to be like, we're trying to make it big and actually do it right. So that the companies feel like this is something special, that the people coming to this feel like they're at a real thing, and that it's actually like that they're at the Grammys and at the Emmys, and they're seeing the people that they've seen on TV doing these missions and like in mission control and stuff, like on stage accepting an award for the cool things they did.
So I know that your goal is to get people to go, but are you going to be streaming it?
Yeah.
The actual award show. Mm-hmm. So what you need to do, because this is how you get people to talk about it, is get like Peter Beck to slap Elon or something on stage.
Yeah.
I hear that works really well for award shows and to get people talking about it.
Okay. So we'll have a hat eating contest.
All right. Stage.
Yeah.
And keep my rocket's name out your mouth.
That would be amazing. Okay, how do we stir up some drama?
Yeah.
It's going to be super fun, and it's been since April. Mary Liz, my employee, has been working on it full time. Basically, like that's been her number one priority. So the logistics, I mean, it's been crazy. So we're not going small. Like we thought about, what if we just did this like a 200 thing at like a hotel conference room or something, and then we're like, if we're doing this, if we want like buy-in from all these companies to really like, and like NASA and ESA to like actually bring a representative, like let's make this huge. Let's go full on and like actually see how big we can make this. And we're aiming high, and it's terrifying, but it's going to be super fun. Yeah.
Stoked for you, man. Now, see, I wasn't nominated I wasn't nominated for anything, so that's what really.
Well, your rocket didn't turn out that good, so we didn't. Really...
You're like, it's an honor just to be not. Oh wait, I wasn't.
No, I'm really, really excited, and we've got a few more. Like I'm still every day I'm spending more time than I would like to just work on logistics and work on some of the planning in the show, and we're doing like on the Saturday night before. So this is a Sunday matinee. The Saturday night before we're throwing a party, but excuse me, it's really more of like a concert. We're actually playing all Everyday Astronaut music live with a band.
Yeah.
And like I have this whole like light show and like visual show to the whole thing. And then my friends in a band called Salt Fox are headlining, and it's gonna be super fun. And I just don't think people are understanding like how crazy this is all gonna be. So
are you working with Anwar Beck and Matt in Austin, Matt Holm? The president, because I know a lot of these, they would be able to get a lot of their folks to come too. If you're not,
I need to make sure
you know Anwar Beck, so
yeah, I know Anwar Beck. Yep.
Yeah,
I need to talk to him. I've kind of been in just like go mode so much that I remember like, oh yeah, I gotta like talk to my friends about this stuff,
Yeah.
Well, can you give us any previews of award winners? Do we know, like?
Well, let's say that actually, and some of this is for debate because we do nominations, like, in general, like these people are nominated. Whether or not they actually get an award or just like an honorable mention is still up for debate with this, like us talking about this. The community will do votes, on Twitter, and also like in our Discord channel and Patreon supporters. We've always done like a ranked choice voting.
It's not just you deciding anymore.
At the end of the day, it is.
Okay.
It still is.
I was going to say, a bit of advice. Yes. Make sure that whatever the winner is, you actually picked it, because I did this with my EV awards for a couple of years. And I had made a bunch of friends in the auto journalism space, like other real auto journalists. And I had them vote on like the performance car of the year, for example. And it was always the Porsche Taycan. And if you've ever driven one, you would completely understand why. The thing is incredible. But the Plaid had come out a couple years ago or something, and everyone was pissed that I didn't pick the Plaid. I'm like, I didn't actually pick it. Like I got one vote, and that's what I picked. That was my vote, was the Plaid, and all the other votes were for the Taycan. And I was like, well, so make sure it's, because it doesn't matter if other people voted, if you're going to be the one that people point to.
Yeah, you're gonna get it anyway.
Yeah, like
that's kind of what
it's your fault, regardless.
And I was gonna say, actually, that's what I'm kind of trying to make it so it's obvious that like this is for fun. We're literally just trying to have like an experience here, And at the end of the day, like I am just kind of putting these in what order I think is most important to me. So I'm not going to announce the winner yet because again, that's actually still kind of for debate. But one of the things let's talk about this now because it'll transition to the next thing. I'm debating where do we put SpaceX's Starship flights? Like in my mind, they're on the fence of like honorable mention. You know, it's like it's really hard to put them in a.
We could have a category that's specifically for Starship launches.
Best Starship launch of the year, IFT2. You know, like. No, so
what do you mean by that, Tim? When you say it's on the fence of being honorable mention?
So it's, do we give an award for a mission that, like, even though it's still a test flight, you know, didn't make it through all of its milestones, didn't, you know, both of them, neither of them made it through, you know, the full, you know, we didn't see the re-entry and things like that of the Starship, didn't make it through its full burn. You know, both of them, I mean, and it's just like, so then what happens when it does do a full mission and it's successful? Like, we already awarded it for, you know, like it's so here's the thing. It's the reason that I think it does deserve, because if we look at like important, impactful, and inspirational, I think impact and inspiration, it's way up there. You know, it's the biggest thing to ever leave Earth in one go. It's huge. Most massive thing to ever fly. Most powerful rocket ever flown.
It got to space, right? It passed the Kármán line?
It did. The second one did get to space. You know, so there are milestones that make it extremely, extremely inspirational and awesome. But like, we're also, you know, comparing it to missions that were like flawless, actual missions that did something tangible, like, you know, like Osiris Rex, which brought back material from an asteroid, you know, like, it
was very inspirational to all the water towers sitting around doing nothing.
With a dream.
Exactly.
All the water towers with a dream.
What was it called? The Grasshopper or whatever? Starhopper?
Starhopper was the water tower can fly
that
one.
That was fun.
But you know, it's like it's in some ways it absolutely deserves an award, and in other ways it absolutely does not. You know, and in the same way,
it's single stage to orbit, right?
Nope.
Oh no, it's not. Oh right, because it separates.
Yep.
And then,
but it's fully reusable. It might be what
or Methalox, which is unique.
Methalox. But it's not the first one to reach orbit because they didn't reach orbit. China did with Jiquan 2 or GQ2.
Okay. Yeah, so I think the important is the question, right? Does it check the boxes of some major advancement that hasn't been done before or something like that?
First full flow stage combustion cycle to space.
Okay.
I mean, you can make up first for almost anything.
Yeah. If you narrow it down enough, you can
see that's where it's confusing, because we also look at, you know, when we're talking about this stuff, we're also looking at, you know, relativity with their Terran 1, the 3D printed rocket.
All right.
That rocket made it to space. It did not successfully light its second stage. So the mission, you know, the test flight was not fully a success, but they proved that this is the first 3D printed, you know, mostly 3D printed by mass vehicle to fly and make it to space through Max-Q. They developed all their, you know, it was Methalox. They did so many firsts on this mission, but it also did not make it through its test campaign. So like I don't know, you know, and I don't think personally, I think they're an honorable mention because I don't know. It's really conflicting.
Well, but do you have different categories for the different? I mean, because you could have one for test launches and one for, like, you know, actual missions and stuff like that. I don't know how you categorize them, I guess.
We don't. That's what's weird is we don't have any categories. It's like just the 10 most important things of the year, period. But do we need categories?
Well, okay. What if you just took your 3 eyes and made those categories? The most inspirational, the most impactful, the most important, you know? And so you can kind of separate, like maybe Starship is the most inspirational. It gets the most media attention. You're going to Mars, you know, those kind of things. But the 3D printed one is the most important because it's a new way of making rockets or something.
Yeah.
That's not so important. Yeah, that's actually not because in my opinion, impactful would almost go to Chandrayaan 3. The one when India landed on the South Pole of the moon, you saw a country that was just like absolutely inspirational. Like that was like, I think the most inspirational. That had a huge impact on a huge portion of the world. You know, the only the 4th country to land on the moon, period. Like that's incredible. And you know, to do it at the scale they did was unbelievable. And you could just tell their country was invigorated by that. So I think inspirational, Chandrayaan 3 was up there. maybe important, you have things like, yeah, that's a good, impactful would probably be SpaceX, because it just made a huge ripple, of, that's not a bad way.
There you go. Yeah, you definitely need categories. Like, imagine if I did best EV of the year. I mean, I did have an overall winner, but it was always like, okay, best value EV, like the new $26,000 Chevy Bolt is not going to win any awards here, except for the fact that it's the cheapest one out there, So you still want to recognize those things in a way, but be like, I don't know, don't just go ham with it, because sometimes you see these things. Like I used to be a big into home brewing, and I went to the Great American Beer Festival, and there's like 300 categories. Yeah. You're like, best sour ale from this with this kind of yeast. You're like,
right.
Who gives it? Like, no.
Yeah. You're making it so the's a category for every single recipient, basically.
Yeah. So everybody that comes gets to win an award, and you're like, okay, guys, like.
Yeah, we don't want that either. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so you kind of need this balance of like, you don't want just overall. Maybe you have an overall category, kind of like best picture, right? You can have best picture, but then you have best everything else. So yeah, that'd be cool, man. I'm stoked for you.
That's interesting. Huh.
Do you ever I know it sounds like a tangent, but there's a channel called Cineflix, and they do a lot of like best cinematography in film or something like that, and they don't necessarily do like best this and best that, but they do categorize them like most naturalistic style, or the more abstract style, or I don't know, black and white and color, but they would like talk about each one, and then do some like runner-ups, and like, we could talk about this movie or this movie, but for our taste it goes to this, or something like that. I'm just throwing that out there. So like, it doesn't have to be necessarily categories, but you could still have a filtering system of sorts.
It's really not a bad idea. Yeah, I mean, because in the past, like, I've just tried to avoid it so we don't go down that rabbit hole, because it's like a slippery slope of category.
What about minutia? What about this? What about this?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah, the whataboutism. So I think if we do like a very vague thing, the 3 I's, important, impact, but impact and inspiration are kind of similar.
Yeah, think about it.
Maybe we have to find another one.
You should probably define what those mean for the audience, right?
Innovative.
Yeah, that's the other I thing is innovative.
Immobile for the ones that didn't get off the ground.
One thing I go to every year, because my wife and I are both architecture nerds, which I know you are too, Tim, is there's a thing from the San Diego Architecture Foundation called Orchids and Onions. And it's a similar kind of thing where a new building, a new sidewalk, a new fence, anything that's built new for the year can be nominated for an orchid or an onion. And so the onions are the ones where you're like, God, you really shit the bed here. Like, you could have made this awesome. That's funny. So anyway, yeah. So that's always fun. So maybe you even have a category of like worst attempt or something like that.
Biggest flop.
Yeah, biggest flop.
And make sure they're there to get the award.
Yeah. Also, real quick, I have to announce something very important on the Joe Scott is in a Wes Anderson film. If you look on YouTube, your color grading actually looks bang on, and it doesn't look that crazy. It actually looks.
Yeah, it looks perfect on YouTube.
Good.
Oh, okay. Oh, on the stream right now.
Yeah.
I think you meant like on my videos.
So the jokes about all of us joking about you being in a Wes Anderson film, no one probably got it because it looks perfect on YouTube.
It's still a little. It still looks like I've got some Kodachrome stuff going on.
A little, but nothing like what it looks like in here in Riverside. It looks like you're
disturbing that it looks that much different.
Yeah, it's spooky.
It might be applying that LUT or something to that stream, but not this one for some reason.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
for
funny.
everyone,
I had to go and mess with everything with 30 minutes. Oh, by the way.
Why don't they just?
No. The people, when I come in here with my coffee and I sit down and everyone in the chat's like, we're waiting on Joe. And meanwhile, Ben's over here like, how do I get this thing to work? And I'm like, why am I the one getting yelled at here? Because
who told them that you're just peeing for an hour?
Did you hear how high my voice just went when I was?
That was impressive.
Yeah, that's why I can't command. I don't have a commanding presence when I get angry. It goes really high.
Charlie Day style.
Okay, I am finally watching that show.
Finally?
I had never watched Sunny the entire time, and I just started watching it within the last month or so. But I've been having people tell me like forever that I look like Charlie Day, or that I think I sound like him too. My voice is a little raspy now.
Isn't it phenomenal?
When it's good, but when it's annoying, it's super annoying, and they're just like yelling on top of each other, and that's just not my style of humor.
But where are you at in seasons? Like, are you still in the early stuff?
Yeah, I'm in like the 4th season right now. They're not even in HD yet.
Right. I think they start to find a rhythm around like season 5. I feel like that's when it kind of gets into more of a not just. It is very loud in the beginning. I feel like is a great way. It's still pretty loud.
That tones down a bit, is what you're saying.
Maybe not.
Well,
now that I think about it, it's still quite loud.
It's just now become the thing that I put on when I'm eating something real quick, or whatever. It's just a nice short thing, whatever.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great.
So Tim, can you actually catch us up on Starship? I mean, I know it launched twice.
Yeah.
Yes, I can. Well, let me share my screen here actually with you guys on the internet, and
all I get is people texting me, "Oh, it blew up again." I'm like,
I mean, that's a pretty. You're pretty well. I feel like summarizing the year.
That's it. That's basically the summary.
Yeah,
it blew up.
But I mean, this is the footage from the first flight test, which is with IFT1 or Integrated Flight Test 1. And you may notice in some of the shots, large chunks of concrete flying everywhere. That was kind of the headline of the first flight. This was on April 20th, 2023. So it was the first time, they'd done a full stack. So the most Raptors they had fired, before on a rocket were 3. Now they were attempting to light 33 engines.
Oh, wow.
So can I just shout out real quick the composition of this shot with the waves in the foreground and like birds flying in the foreground and stuff like that?
Ryan Shalinsky, man.
The artiste in me appreciates.
Oh, Ryan is artist on top of artist. And so that's a fun thing too. You can see chunks of concrete now. Do you see that? Those big chunks flying? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's concrete the size of a school bus almost. Like it's insane. Wow. So hard to fathom how much energy there was there. But yeah, cosmic perspective, we've like become even more tightly knit partners, and I'm so happy with them, with Mary Liz and Ryan, and Andrew and all the people. Anyway, Starship, back to Starship. Not time to cry about how much I love my team. Okay, so
I love you so hard.
So the first flight, it committed to launch. It actually lifted off with only 31 out of its 33 engines. So they had a launch commit criteria where apparently they said, as long as we have more than, we don't know the exact number, but I think it's something like as long as at least 30 are firing or something, we'll go for launch. We have enough thrust to get off the pad safely, and we believe that's okay. And so, by the way, you can see our footage here is corrupt because you'll see why. This camera and all cameras just get absolutely plastered with huge chunks.
It looks like a volcano eruption or something.
It was. For all intents and purposes.
Look safe.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, if you were there, you would not survive. There's no way you would not survive. So it launched with 29 of the engines, 31 of the engines at very liftoff, and pretty quickly engines started shutting down. And there was very obvious. If we fast forward here, even though this footage is super fun to watch, we'll fast forward to some of our tracking footage. You'll start to see just how much. This is full uncut. Let's go to the slow mo. You'll see it better. You'll see how stuff is on fire that's not supposed to be. Methalox is supposed to burn quite clear and like pinkish purple. There should be no orange in it. So any orange you're seeing is stuff burning that's not supposed to be burning. And you can see how many engines are not firing.
Is that engine-rich exhaust?
Very engine-rich exhaust. And potentially hydraulic fluid exhaust, because it was one of the hydraulic power units. There was 2 hydraulic power units that help steer the rocket that, provide the hydraulic fluid and the hydraulic pressure to steer the engines. And one of them completely blew up. And so it's been leaking, it was leaking. What I think is RP1 is actually like, rocket exhaust is actually and fuel is what they were using as the hydraulic fluid. I think. I actually don't know if that's confirmed or not. But anyway, you're having all this stuff leak. There's fires inside of the engine bay, and it's knocking out engine after engine. And people are just going, there's no way this is ever going to work. Like, are you kidding me? They have 33 engines. Mm-hmm. You can't have that many engines running that close together. If one fails, it can be a cascading failure. And, I kind of was in like, this is a lot. This is a lot. But we have to remember in context, Falcon Heavy already has had a perfect launch streak with 27 engines running, all in close proximity. So you look at it as like, This isn't that much more ambitious, but the engine is still that much newer, and it is that much more high power. It is that much more, under development. And you're seeing this and you're going, oh, this is not good. But where it really did get not good is all of a sudden you're starting to see by the end of this thing, it's starting to kind of flip. And we knew they were going to try and do the stage separation by flipping the rocket and having the stages actually come apart in the flip. Huh. So at first when we see it, crazy. So at first when we're seeing it flip, we're like, oh, maybe this is the cartwheel. Cool. It's doing it, guys. But it keeps flipping. Flipping.
And all of it's flipping.
And all of it staying attached and flipping. And it's just like, we're like, whoa, this is not under control anymore. And come to find out, I think the biggest thing is the fact that they tried to blow it up and it did not explode. Oh. They lit the flight termination system on it 40 seconds prior to it blowing up.
Oh, wow.
So for 40 seconds, the thing flew around with holes bigger than us, and it didn't blow up.
Dang. So I didn't know that.
So they actually did blow like holes in it, but it didn't.
Yes. You'll see.
I didn't know that.
In our tracking footage, you'll see two puffs go like this on one on the upper stage, one on the main stage. And then it just continues. And Scott Manley right away within 20 minutes, like literally tweeted like, looks like flight termination system happened and nothing went out, And I was like, there's no way. You can't light 2 bombs on a rocket still with a lot of propellant inside it and not have it just go absolutely kaboom. Come to find out you can do that.
Wrong.
Oh, here. So it already there. I think I missed it here, but you'll see.
You can see those plumes coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. It's boom, boom. So right there, so you see 2 big holes still spewing propellant now. And these holes, they punched them right at the bulkhead where the fuel and the oxidizer meet. Like that's where that hole was put.
Oh, okay.
So they're freaking out right now.
Held together. And luckily, this thing was far enough away, but this could have been bad. And so this, I think, was one of the longest things that took so long between the 2 flights, was the FAA needed to be convinced and proven that they have this under control, because you have the world's largest, most powerful, most massive rocket ever flying 5 miles or 8 kilometers from populated areas. This thing needs to be able to destruct if something goes wrong, if something goes awry. So luckily,
so when the pointy end was down, that's when things needed to be exploded.
Yes. Yeah. When the pointy end is up.
Oh, there it goes.
Or wait, flaming end. Sorry, you said pointy end. When the pointy end, yeah. When the pointy end is not
up. I confused my pointy and flamey.
I got scared.
So all this debris and everything just falls into the ocean, or what happens? I mean, yeah, because it doesn't maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't incinerate it, right? It's not like dust after that.
Right. No.
It's still big chunks of metal and stuff, right?
Yeah. So it crashed into the Gulf, similar to, every other rocket in existence prior to some parts of the space shuttle and the Falcon 9.
A million years from now, they go, this is what wiped out the humans, as they're digging up debris from the ocean.
Look at all this plastic inside this rocket engine.
It's like, no, it actually was social media. That's what wiped us out. Led to our destruction.
Yeah, it's still social media. But so that was the first one, and it was still considered a success. And I know there's still people like are saying like, you cannot whitewash this or whatever they say, or whatever word they put as like, you cannot package this as a success. Like, this was obviously a huge failure. It's like SpaceX was just really excited to get it off the pad. Like, every engineer I've talked to, and I know a lot of them, were like, yeah, we were just hoping it got off the pad. It got off the pad and that was it. We were stoked.
Mission accomplished.
If I remember correctly, there was a crew launch on the Falcon 9 and Dragon the week after or right after that, and all these people were like, it's dangerous, they're gonna blow up, and I was like, you ingrates, oh my god.
I know
it's 2 totally different things, but that doesn't get people to click on things. So
and I love how there's people out there, I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of busted type of people that always want to disprove everything about anything connected to Elon is just absolutely flawed and failed and a horrible mistake. They're smart. They're smart people that they a lot of their points are incredibly valid, 100% agree on some of these things, but they see something like this and suddenly they forget what a prototype is. They're all of a sudden like, test flight? Oh, what's a test flight? You know, they just have no idea. It's like, you're smart. You should understand that they had an expectation and they exceeded it. They knew this was not going to be a perfect test flight. You know, they knew there were flaws in the system and they were just excited to gather data. They're excited to get it off the pad, test the release mechanisms, test the tank farm, test the engines. It was great for that. It's, you know, like
my brother texted me with this big conspiracy theory about Russia and something, and that's why it exploded. And I'm like, what are you even talking about, dude? Like, you're so fun.
Yeah, like, no, actually, SpaceX tried to blow it up and they couldn't even. So I don't think Russia had anything to say about it. But the biggest criticism of the first flight was the fact that the launch pad had chunks of concrete going absolutely everywhere, which seemed horrible. Like, I remember being like, they broke the launch pad, like they broke everything. But come to find out, like, when you actually take like a step back and you think about it from SpaceX, they had a rocket they wanted to get rid of, data they wanted to collect, and they actually wanted to dig a hole underneath the launch pad anyway to fill that in with a new deluge system.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's funny.
I mean, did they or did they not accomplish all of that in one?
I need to dig a hole. Let's get a rocket out here.
Yeah, I mean, they essentially did what they wanted to do and more, like for you know, a really cheap and easy way. And yes, there's some cleanup and there's some repairs on things, but I mean,
and then the second one,
two birds out with one stone.
The second one went a bit better, right?
Yeah. So the second one, let me share that with you. The second one actually went quite a bit better. I would have a hard time with people not understanding the success of this one because it is so much better. So you'll see right away here already, you can notice that there's, before the rocket engine's light, you do see a bunch of water flowing because they installed a new thing underneath the launch mount that is a water-cooled plate of, like, it's basically 2 pancakes of steel, huge, thick steel, and the top plate has holes in it, and they flow water into there, and then it shoots out these holes. So not only does the exhaust then run into some of that water, but by the time it reaches that plate, the plate is actually actively water-cooled. People had their doubts, you know, like, this won't hold up. There's no way. Once, you know, when they did the test fire is only
like, you'll just melt it.
Yeah, they only did it at half throttle, and by the time they full throttle, the whole thing will melt and it'll be the same thing. And steam will, you know, it'll create a steam pocket between those 2 plates and it'll still send shrapnel everywhere. Well, let's see.
And it'll set the atmosphere on fire. Oh wait, exactly. That was Oppenheimer. Sorry, I got that.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see already much less debris. And I mean, sure, it looks like an EF5 tornado. Look on the left. Like, look at those shockwaves.
Yeah. Oh, something just flew at the camera.
Yeah, something flies right at the camera.
Look at all these cameras sitting there.
Yeah. So this is where the press.
Those are gravestones.
This is where the press had the opportunity to set up our cameras. So in slow-mo, watch the ripples on the left. This is my favorite thing to watch. It's so mesmerizing. Once the vehicle lifts off, so you're first seeing the steam. So you're seeing a lot of the water turn into steam. That's why it's white. Then when you start to see dark clouds, that's going to be it kicking up dust, you know, some of the sand.
But
watch
away.
once it leaves, watch the left cloud. It is so mesmerizing in slow-mo. You just can see and feel the energy from 33 Raptor engines just pulverizing the air, absolutely making that air weak. Look at that.
Yeah.
How cool is that? And then on the ground, you start to really see it on the ground here. I think right about here. Now watch the center of the screen. You'll start to see this. You'll see the spark come out and fly at the camera. And it's coming up right here. It looks like a firework. Right. The first time right here. Watch this.
I think Tim's watched this a few times.
That's amazing.
That missed our camera by, you know, this much, by inches. So, but yeah, it was a much bigger success. And the biggest headliner, I think, for this one is that all 33 engines launched, like, lit at liftoff. This is the first time 33 engines have actually been properly running together simultaneously ever in SpaceX's history, was at this moment. Not only did they initially launched with 33, but they managed to actually maintain running. Look, you got to check out this camera.
They stayed
This camera
lit.
is so sick. This gives you a good perspective. Look at that. You just get a sense of how fast it's moving. This thing's huge. This thing's almost 400 feet tall.
Is that from like your house or something?
So this is from Sapphire, which is a condominium on South Padre, and there's a nearby hotel. Now watch how long it takes before things start shaking. There it is. And like, it's just, that's how long it took the energy to get the sound waves to get from there to here. It's just so fun. So this is us from the studio space here, and Mary Liz and I. And she is praising the rocket gods. And then my brain broke. Once I saw the exhaust trail from this.
I saw that. I saw you freaking out about that. That was good.
Dude, it is that trail, because it was beautiful. Like, I don't think cameras do it justice, how perfectly clear this day was and how beautiful that exhaust looked. I mean, you could see the mock diamonds down the entire, it just looked so surreal. I've never seen anything like that. And the engines ran. Let's look at some tracking footage here. Let's get to a shot that shows. Yeah. Oh, that one. This is the one that goes a little out of focus. This one shows. Hang on. That all three engines actually continued to run the entire time.
33.
All 33 engines ran all the way through the burn. None of them shut down prematurely. And then
honestly, when I was watching it, that was what got me the most, was, thinking back to that first one and all of them that shut down. And I still had my reservations about the Raptor. I felt like they still had some issues with it, but when they all stayed lit, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yes, that was a huge sign of like, okay, this could actually be a thing,
Yeah,
maybe they do have these engines relatively well figured out, and if they can do it now, like, the reliability would just, get better and better. But you can see their stage separation, Ben. This is the most fun thing about Starship. Between Flight 1 and Flight 2, instead of trying to do that crazy flip maneuver to separate the stages, they decided, what if we do something that the Soviets and Russians and I guess some early American rockets did, called hot staging, which is where they fire the engines of the second stage while it's attached to the first stage. That way you don't have to worry about like lighting the engines under 0G, because lighting an engine under 0G doesn't really work. You might bring in gas bubbles and have cavitations and all these certain things that can destroy the engines. So they normally have like a separate thruster that accelerates it a little bit, and then that will allow them to relight the engines. But all that is like wasted time. Anytime you're not thrusting, you're busting. Yeah.
If you're not thrusting, you're busting.
So they did this thing where they shut down all but 3 engines on the booster. So it's actually still, the booster was actually still pushing the upper stage. So all the propellant was still settled. Then they lit all 6 engines on the second stage while it's attached, and then let go, and it flipped the stages around. And it worked for the most part. So some of the things they have to figure out still is the upper stage, or the booster that you can see turning here.
Yeah.
Although it did flip, when it tried to relight its engines, the other engines that tried to light 10 more engines, they weren't really working very well.
Is that supposed to come back and land?
So that will someday. On this mission, it wasn't intending to land back on land. It was just going to do a splashdown. But they intended to relight the engines, let it re-enter, light the engines, and commit to a landing profile, but just over the ocean or over the Gulf.
What about the bear hug or whatever? Is it still trying to catch the thing? Is that still the idea?
Eventually, yes. So for my hopes for the next one is that they will get a clean stage separation. They will have a clean booster, and they'll have a clean splashdown, and they'll know, like, with confidence that, hey, we can control this thing through entry. We have control over it during the landing burn, and we can actually precisely guide this thing to a certain point. I think if they like what they see, and if the FAA is okay with all of the control and says, yeah, you guys got this, they might be able to bring it back and try to actually land it back at the launch pad.
Whatever happened to landing it on a oil rig or something that they were converting? So
they scrapped the oil rigs for now.
Okay.
And I think the main reason isn't for landing. So they were hoping to do like the whole launch and landing thing at some oil rigs. But for now, I think the biggest reason is just simply how often right now, while they're in development, how often they're going out to the pad to work on something, yada, 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 getting fuel out there, yada, 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 bringing parts back and forth, and crew was just physically on site. If you had to take a crew out on a 2-hour boat ride every time you had to fix something right now, it would just be, you would run out of money just in people sitting on a boat.
Did you forget that wrench again? Oh crap, we'll be back in 4 hours.
Yeah,
exactly. So I think right now it's just not until this thing's really figured out and nailed down. I just don't think they're going to be anywhere near those. But I think eventually they totally sold them off and everything, so they don't have them in their imminent plans. But I do think once this becomes operational, I think they could have some freedoms by doing the oil platform launches.
It sounds like it might be the vehicle battery swap thing that they demoed and patented and all that, and then just never did anything with it. But it's it's still sitting there. Other companies are doing it, and they're like, "Oh, this is actually a good idea. Maybe we should."
It still is a good idea, yeah. But you should do that only when you're at a certain point of practicality and maturity in the whole system. I think they were jumping the gun a little bit to think that they could do that right away, basically before all the teething. There's going to be still a lot of teething pains on this rocket, but hopefully next time it flies, I'm expecting to have another clean booster flight. I'm hoping that the booster does better with the flip and relighting, and I hope it comes down and successfully splashes down. I think that it should.
That'd be cool. You can probably try to land that on a drone ship, right?
It's so big. You'd have to be on a Nimitz class aircraft carrier or something. It's
and you need legs.
And it would need legs, because they don't have legs on it at all.
Oh. Yep. Well, there's that.
Exactly.
It just lands gently on the engines and supports itself.
Kerbal. We'll just do it like Kerbal.
The best part is no part, right?
Hey, I mean, maybe that would work. Don't give them any ideas. Don't give them any ideas.
There won't be any parts left after that. But.
Yeah. Best part is no part. So we'll just.
When's the next attempt? Do we know?
I mean, it could be soon. It could be. I don't expect another 7-month delay. I don't.
Right.
I'm expecting this one to be within probably 3 months of the prior launch. So that launched on November 17th. So I'm expecting by mid-February, maybe March. I'm thinking that'll be a reasonable time frame, because it shouldn't have. I don't know. I don't know how these things work. We never know. We always think we know, but we never do know. But I don't think the FAA is quite as will have as much to review, because the flight termination system worked as planned. Everything stayed within the the flight path, and if it deviated from that, termination worked and did its thing. So I just think the review of it won't be as crazy, and I don't think there's as much to go over this time. There's not an environmental review of the pad system anymore. That was a big holdup. So I think it'll be I think it'll actually be quicker. We'll see.
Depending on how crazy their flight plan proposed next plan is, right? If they're like, oh, let's do all these other crazy stuff, they're like, okay, let's review that more. But maybe I hope they just repeat it. I hope they just say, because they're still trying to make it so they see Starship on a very nearly orbital trajectory, within 2% of orbital velocity, and then what it does is it ends up being just barely suborbital, so it will re-enter over Hawaii. And then that's the big thing they want to test, is those orbital velocities, having Starship come in and re-enter and seeing if it can survive. And it's losing a lot of heat shield tiles, so that's not great. But it is made out of stainless steel, so you have to kind of total heat flux. Who knows how much will get in? Will it penetrate? And that's the fun. I expect to see Booster do a soft splashdown, and I also expect to see Starship make it to Hawaii. Whether or not it holds up, I don't know. I kind of don't expect that until they have the heat shields. Speaking of things made of stainless steel
and triangles.
I was about to say, I'm admiring your cyber mug.
My buddy Dan from What's Inside sent this to me, ironically. He doesn't drink, but funny. He I don't know, got a voucher for it. And they don't also ship to Utah. So he was like, here, have a drink on me. So I thought that was fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. What do you guys think about the big angry triangle now that it's...
Did either of you guys go to the event?
The recent one?
No.
Yeah, I mean...
all three of us were at the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All three of us.
We've slipped.
I just remember trying to find food at like 2 a.m. when it ended or something with you guys driving around for like 40 minutes.
That's right.
Didn't we wind up at a Taco Bell or something? Or?
Yeah, just some terrible hotel taco. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we just took it back to the hotel or something. It was.
Yeah.
Well, or do we sit there and lament about how terrifying this vehicle was, and that the future of our favorite car company was in the hands of this triangle?
Yeah. I mean, what do you guys think about it now that it's unveiled? Like the final specs are here and everything, like hot takes.
Joe?
Okay. I am not anti-Cybertruck. I wouldn't have one myself because I just have no use for one. For the same reason I don't have a Rivian. I just don't need a pickup truck, you know? And ever since it first got announced, everybody was like, "Are you getting one?" I'm like, "Why? Why would I?" So I know this isn't my opinion. This is Marquez, but I saw his video about it, and he pointed out that this was the first Tesla car that did not live up to the original specs. It didn't have the range that they said it would have. It didn't have the towing capacity, the price, obviously. He was making the point that like Tesla usually takes a long time to get their cars out, but they usually do hit the marks that they set up for it. And this one kind of didn't.
I would argue on price, they've never hit the mark, but
on price,
yeah. Price
and timeline for sure.
30 grand. You're like, yeah, it's 80. You're like, like, but it does what I said it would do. Like, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I am still on the half the time I hate it, half the time I just love it. I do think it'd be the best EV truck that you could own right now, realistically, like when you compare the specs. But however, would I rather have Cybertruck over a if Rivian had the Tesla CCS or the Tesla, NACS, North American Charging Standard, delivering next year, I would buy a Rivian R1T.
I think
that's not happening until 2025.
Oh, 2025. Yeah. Who cares? There'll be an adapter. I mean,
but then you're just antiquated. That's like saying, here, buy this new iPhone when we know the USB-C is coming out. You're like, well, you can adapt it.
Though,
But I can't do that to myself.
Is my point.
I hate adapters. And just in 6 years, that vehicle, people will already think about time scale of technology. People will be like, this has a what charger?
Yeah.
A CCS? They just won't even be able to fathom it. So I just wouldn't.
And then you'll need a different adapter for actual CCS chargers. Not that you use them that often, but yeah.
And those are going to be gone. Those will fall by the
wayside.
Well,
I think they also, like I know EVgo for, I don't know, well over a year now has already been installing Tesla plugs, like cords, on their EVgo chargers. So along with CCS and everything else. So yeah, I think that's a good take. Like they certainly missed the mark on all the specs, right? Like I don't think there was a spec they hit that they said they were going to hit. Maybe the performance, the 0 to 60 or something like that, which is cool. That's great. Yeah. The things I liked about it were not, and I didn't even know that the presentation happened. Like it happened in the middle of the day or something. Like I remember I woke up and I was like, oh, let me go check it out. And it was like, it already happened. So I don't know, but the specs, the things I liked about it were not things that were really any of the headline numbers or anything. The steer-by-wire, I think, is super cool. And I think that'll be great for other vehicles, maybe the Roadster. The four-wheel steering I thought was a good feature. It's not, uncommon. There's a lot of vehicles out there with that, but that's a really great one. The 48-volt architecture, I think, is huge.
Yeah,
that's a big advancement. Apparently, I don't know if you guys watched the Haggerty video. I may have sent it to you guys. If anybody,
you sent it to me. It was a great video.
If anybody watching has not watched Haggerty's video on the Cybertruck, you have to go watch it. It's by far the best video that will ever be made about it. But in one part of that, they were saying that apparently Tesla made a brochure or like a folder, a binder that's like how to do steer-by-wire and like sent it to all the major auto companies.
Yeah. No, it's how to do 40. It was how to do 48.
How to do 48 volt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I love those advancements. And then I guess
800 volt charging too.
The what?
800 volt charging.
Yeah,
internally,
which exists, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool to see, but I think steer-by-wire and the 48 volt architecture were things that were brand like new. Both of those I think were huge, and hopefully they'll translate to better stuff. The 4680 batteries, I was kind of disappointed because even when Battery Day came out, if you remember, it was like, oh, we're totally vertically integrated. We're making our own batteries, blah, blah, blah. It's all great and all this stuff. But to the consumer, there was zero difference. It wasn't cheaper. It wasn't faster. It didn't have more range. Nothing at all to see here. Imagine Apple coming out and having this great new thing we made. Oh, huge battery advancement. Oh my God, you're not going to believe these new batteries in your phone. And they last the exact same time as the current ones. You're like, what the hell? Like, why do I care? So I think I think that was kind of a bummer on that side. But the steer-by-wire and the 48-volt architecture, really cool. All the other specs, I feel pretty, except for performance, I feel like kind of a big disappointment. Like the range, they had announced 500 miles plus, not even close to that. I think it's like 340 or 350 for the longest one. The Rivian, for example, now has a 410 mile version. So if range is a big deal, Cybertruck's not your answer.
And they have that range extender, but it takes up half of the
if you have a spare tire and the range extender, it's no longer a truck.
Yeah.
It's like a giant car. So I don't get.
I wish it was a frunk option, like put the range extender in the frunk or something.
That would make sense. I agree.
So you still can use the bed, because the bed also still has a lockable storage, and the tonneau cover, whatever you say.
Yeah, in the range extender, to the same point about the batteries, why do I need a range extender when you have all these fancy batteries that are supposed to be great? GM has probably the worst efficiency of all. They've made an electric car worse for the environment than a gas car, but they just said, screw it, we're just going to stack two of them together and call it a day. So I think that's kind of, I don't know, I'm disappointed in that, I would say. The one thing that I saw that was two concerns I had. One is, as a truck, apparently it's not with the triangle backing, like the way access to the bed not being straight, means that you have to have like a giant excavator to load stuff in. Like you can't load stuff in from that side angle with a normal backhoe that like most people at farms and stuff use. So I don't know if it's actually going to function super well as a truck, unless you're like on a big construction site or something like that. The second concern was this right here. So this video right here, if you see the backseat passenger, whack, they like full on fly forward and hit their head. So the vehicle itself looks like it takes the impact really well, because it doesn't really bend much, or the side impact, for example. But the kinetic energy still has to be absorbed somewhere. And so if you're hitting something that is stronger than you are, and granted, another car is probably not stronger than you are here, the passengers could be the ones that actually absorb a lot of that impact. And so I'm actually concerned about safety on some. And after watching this video here, if you look at the backseat passenger when it does the frontal impact, that guy just goes absolutely flying into the seat in front of him. And if you look at other ones, for example, like the Model X or any of the other Teslas, they hardly move at all. They just barely kind of go forward, right?
Wouldn't that just be a seatbelt thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why, but if you look at the back passenger, like,
well, there's probably less crumple zone too, I guess. So
there is not a crumple zone.
There is a crumple zone. There is.
It's the other car.
No, they talked about it. Actually, Sandy Monroe's teardown thing. They talk about how the whole like subframe thing is actually like explosive, almost like it's literally meant to like shatter and provide a crumple zone. But it's, and that all has to follow regulations and all that kind of stuff. Obviously there's regulations out there for this stuff, but trucks can get around some of those regulations, which already is a concern anyway.
I've seen that it won't be able to sell in Europe though, because of that,
for pedestrian safety too.
Right. But regardless of that, I think, so I'm a little concerned about that safety stuff, just because after seeing that video, I was like, oh my God, that does not look like, if all you do is look at the truck, you're like, oh great. But then you look at the passengers, you're like, oh shit, that looks terrible. And then not being able to use it as a truck because it has those side angles, I think might be a concern for people. So it'll fall into the category I think we thought it would fall into, which is like a showpiece. It's like a flashy, get attention. Maybe I have a business, I want to slap the sticker on the side, or maybe I go to a construction site as the salesperson for some service, and all the construction guys are like, oh, that's badass, right? Because it looks cool. So I think that'll be its main feature, is the attention gettingness and the performance. You know, I do remember riding in it, and the interior is ginormous. So, you know, there are a lot of good things about it, but not being able to make it on range is a huge one. And then the price being so high, I think I always knew that. I think when I said that, people got mad at me, like I was some big Tesla hater. And I'm like, you guys know that every car they've ever announced has been way more expensive than what they announced, right? So that wasn't a surprise, but the range is probably the biggest disappointment. So mixed feelings. It also is coming into a space that is highly competitive. You know, you have the Rivian, you have the Ford Lightning. Although Ford said they just cut production on that or cut estimates. So we'll see what happens there. The Silverado EV work truck is out, and the next one is coming next year. And I've had some time with that. That thing is unreal. So I don't know. I mean, it's interesting to see what's going to happen, specifically since Tesla's never done this. They've always come into a space as kind of the only show in town, right? They were the only one with a luxury sedan, electric sedan when it came out, the only one. So now there are options, and the other options are competitive. It's not like, you know, oh my God, it smashes every category possible. It's like, not really, you know? So it'd be interesting to see how it goes, not in the first couple of years, because it'll just be all the fanboys buying it just for the sake of it. But 3-4 years down the road, what does production look like?
Yeah. So I would not push back, but I just want to add a little context when you talk about it being.
Let's do it.
Yeah, please.
Damn it! When we talk about it being a showpiece, being somebody that lives in truck country, I think most pickup trucks are just showpieces. Really, like nobody's really.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm just throwing a number out of my butt, but I mean, I would say probably 60 to 70% of pickups on the road are not being used as pickups or utility trucks in any way.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, there's actually a stat on that. There was a bunch of surveys that were done, and it was like 72% of things never have a payload or never haul anything. Yeah, so
let me just, so there's a trailer that I would like to tow around here in Iowa all the time when I'm like, we do this bike event stuff where we're towing a big heavy trailer, and sometimes like I want to borrow a friend's boat or something, and I would love to just be able to do that, or a kayaking, you know, things like that I would love to do, and I have to just go borrow a friend's truck. And like I do that like in the summer, I'll do that like almost every weekend. And so like borrowing a friend's truck is not the best option for me. So I actually am in the market. Like I would like to own a vehicle that could tow something or have something, you know, cargo like that fairly frequently. Like I don't know if I don't want 2 cars either though. So I don't want like.
What are you driving right now?
I still have I have the Model 3.
The Performance?
Yeah, the Performance Model 3. Yep.
So the same one you had back in the day?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, well, same here. I'm still driving this thing.
Yeah. So it's obviously not the most utility of any vehicle, you know. So it's you know, and so I have been thinking like it'd be nice to. I don't want 2 cars though, and I don't also want to drive a Cybertruck full time because I do think it's like really not my favorite. I don't actually hate the way it looks, but I would feel like an idiot in it, and I would want to tint the windows completely black, and I'd want to wear a helmet when I get out of the car, and just, you know, full race suit or something so no one sees me.
You always wear.
I don't want to be seen.
Spacesuit.
Yeah, but I do like inside of it. It would be great. I feel like driving in it would be amazing. I love the bed. Like the style of the bed is incredible. Like I love. Like there's a lot of things I'm like, this is the best in that. But I'd much rather drive, if I had to have only a vehicle, and if I have to swap to a truck someday, which I don't want to do, it would be a Rivian, because I just think it looks. And at the time when Rivian came out, I thought it was ugly because it looked too different. Yeah, now it looks super mundane almost, and like normal, and still now it looks very good looking on the road. But every time I see one, I'm like, oh yeah, look at that.
You know what stood out to me that I didn't realize was that the Rivian has a better drag coefficient than the Cybertruck. Yeah, and I don't even know how that's possible. I think it might be the lowest. It's 0.30 is the coefficient of drag on the Rivian, and I believe the Cybertruck's like 0.34, which is still incredible. I probably got that wrong, but it's higher. You know, it's like in between a Bugatti and a something, and you're like, that's amazing for a truck. But you're like, how the hell did Rivian pull this off? I really don't understand the physics of it. A lot of aerodynamics is about the drag, the negative pocket of air behind the vehicle. It's not the frontal area. It's not the shape of, like, everyone thinks, you know, you need this like pointy thing. If you look at Cybertruck, the back tailgate of it is literally completely flat. Yeah. If they just rounded that off a tiny bit and like allowed maybe if the tonneau cover or something came down a little bit to fill in a little bit of that air pocket or something, you know, like, or you know how on semis they have those like drag devices, those deployable things. That's why they're trying to bring air to stick in and fill that hole there.
I feel like it does come at an angle, though. I thought that's kind of the point.
Tiny bit, but if you look at like the roundingness of like a R1T and some of the aero features underneath, like that's the biggest problem with a truck.
The bottom of the bed of the Rivian goes up. You can't really see it, and then there's no bumper, so it's totally smooth as it comes over.
So it helps fill in some of that air pocket. But the thing is that it also has the cab. It does have a sharp cab, so there's that air pocket behind the cab. Well, Cybertruck with
on the cab of the Rivian, there are like little kind of flaps that go out, I think, to help do that same thing. There's like little kind of flare pieces.
Didn't I see it actually is more efficient with a tonneau cover retracted?
Huh. The Cybertruck or the Rivian?
The Cybertruck.
Oh, I don't know. That's weird.
Why would it might be that old Mythbuster thing where that negative pocket of air actually kind of creates airfoil to go over or something, which is super counterintuitive. But if I remember right, I think it's actually more efficient when you have the tonneau cover retracted.
Yeah, so I mean, it's here now.
Sorry.
It's out there now. We're the original. So someone was telling me that the vehicles they delivered were still considered marketing vehicles. Do we know that, or are they actual customer cars?
I've heard mixed things.
Really? Yeah, because someone was telling me that if you looked inside the software and something, it still said like didn't have a real VIN number or something like that. It still was just a prototype vehicle or something.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So Cybertruck loses 10% range with the tonneau cover retracted. Okay, so I was wrong.
Oh,
I'm happy. Maybe they might have said up and down, or like when it's up, and that confuses me. Like which way is up when it's like,
well, and
like I don't know. When the tonneau cover's down, like, well, is down like retracted or like because it goes down into the truck. So is that down or is it down into the tailgate? Like
turn the air conditioning up.
Oh, I know.
Is that colder?
Yes, it's the same thing.
When I was learning Spanish, there was this app where you could talk to people, and I would ask, and they would ask me English stuff. And one of the most confusing phrases for people was the alarm went off, which means it went on. It sounded. It did a thing. It didn't go off. Yeah, stuff like that.
Funny.
We have a lot
of
weird
stuff like a negative.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, Lucid has the Gravity now, and I think that's like, I'm just still shocked that the range is so bad. I mean, like how are they missing on range? That's the one thing I remember thinking like, look, I think it's ugly and blah, 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 but it'll be the best bang for your buck. It'll be the best price for the miles that you get. And like, it's not true, it's like, that's a bummer. So,
however, if we know anything about Tesla, when any product comes out, they jack up the price.
Yeah.
And then as soon as like they start to even see that little inkling of tapering of demand, boom, 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 boom. They just lower the price.
Yeah.
Perfect correlation between demand and price.
Yeah.
And the Founders Editions one are going to be $10,000, $20,000 more. I mean, we saw that with
Foundation, not Founders.
Or sorry.
Foundation. I don't know why they changed that. Yeah, they're called the Foundation series.
Anyway, the Foundation series.
Why? I don't know.
Will be $20,000 more than
in
a year. I think a standard that same exact specs vehicle, I think will be $10,000-$20,000.
Does this raise any eyebrows then for you guys that they could make a Roadster that goes 620 miles, since they can't make a Cybertruck that goes 400 miles, despite how ginormous it is?
Well, they claim they're going to put a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack in the Roadster.
At this point, I'm wondering if it's ever going to come out.
I know,
dude. Could you imagine the people? I mean, look, there's the idiots like me that don't even deserve them, and then you have the people out there that literally put $250,000 down on this thing in 2017.
Yeah,
November 2017.
6 years ago,
dude. Imagine if you would just put that money in the S&P or anything. Or
the Tesla stock.
You have like $10 million by now, or I don't know where the stock's at, but you'd have a lot, right?
That's that one I have little grace for. That seems almost criminal to me, and I'm shocked
at this point it's too much.
That there's not some major lawsuits happening where it's like this is so far. And I know they had some really fancy language in their agreements, basically, and like that kind of like kept them clean of all of it somehow. Obviously, because like people would sue them if they could on this.
You'd be like, you didn't live up to. We'll see. Tesla's still killing it though. You know, it's the Model Y is still like the best selling car in the world. And I think it's a great vehicle that for most people, when they ask me what EV, depending on your needs, but for a lot of people, the Model Y is still the best answer. I feel like, you know, I wish they would have done something like the higher end stuff. I wonder if they're just abandoning, like the finance team is kind of winning probably. Like Elon is like pushing for the Cybertruck and doing that, but like the finance team's like, yeah, maybe we just keep selling the Model Y, you know, like keep just doing that, making more money. Like, you know,
here I've got some bread and butter.
Yeah.
Keep making more of that.
I will say in Germany, I saw one of the new Highland edition, like the newer model, the updated Model 3.
Yeah, I saw one in Tokyo too.
I am a little curious about that.
Really, I think it looks great personally.
Yeah.
I think
what hot take, like what impressed you about it, and like, you know, what maybe didn't impress you?
It's funny, the front actually looks a little more conventional. You know, it's not quite as much of a statement as the 3 and the Y was, with the kind of the little stub nose look, but it looks a lot more high end to me. It looks more like a Porsche. It looks more like a high end car. And
I like the taillights.
The taillights, like everything just looks a little nicer to me. The interior, it's funny because I like ambient lighting and stuff. You know, like I like that in cars. I like when I get in a Mini Cooper and it has all the cool ambient lighting and stuff. But for some reason, it feels a tiny bit cheap in the Model 3 to me, and probably Cybertruck too, and whatever vehicles would have it in the future. I don't know why, it just feels gimmicky almost, but it is cool. I'm in this weird, like,
the lighting,
both sides of the coin. Like, I'm like, it is cool, but it's also gimmicky. But it's
I thought it was weird how they took out the wood. I thought the wood always made it nice, you know.
I always like that.
And now I couldn't quite. I don't know what the material was. To me, it felt like the inside of the lining of something. It's like a moving blanket material. Like it didn't feel premium whatsoever. I was like, what is this weird, like what they replaced the wood with? So I was kind of disappointed in that. But yeah, I thought the lighting was cool.
Some things definitely feel and look cheaper.
Yeah.
But other things seem better. I don't know.
I'm with you. I think it looks so much better from the exterior. The lights are so much better. I think the lighting is actually really cool. And then the rear screen is kind of neat too, because then, you know, people with kids or something, you can just put on Netflix or something like that. So that's one of the annoying things.
I'm surprised how many features they gave it compared to the S, because it kind of made it so they're a lot closer in features and specs and everything, where like it becomes a lot harder of a sell to upsell to the S when the 3 has almost everything.
I just still think they don't think they care about the S or the X, really. You know what I mean? They're such small volumes. I haven't looked in a while, but I'm guessing it's like probably less than 10% of revenue. Like it's a pretty niche product even for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. You know, but yeah, I mean, the X or the S still has like air suspension and, you know, plaid mode, tri-motor, longer range, yada yada. I mean, the S still wins in a lot, like every way except price, right? I'm really wondering what's going to happen next year as we get into the new tax credit rules, and how I don't think any Teslas qualify, or maybe they qualify for half of it or something like that.
And how does this work, by the way? If I were to pick up a car by the end of the year, so when I bought the Model 3, it qualified for the tax credit, but I was under the assumption that it was like a one and done. Once a household has done the tax credit thing, which is completely separate. If I bought if I went to a Model Y or something, and it took delivery by the end of the year, would I literally get like $7,500 tax credit?
Yeah.
Like no questions asked.
Right. Yeah. It's per vehicle. It's not per household or something like that.
Did it used to be?
No, it never was. Maybe buying used wasn't before, but with the new rules, you can get, I think it's up to $4,000 on a used EV as well. And one of the big changes is going into next year is that now the credit is not a credit. It's like an actual rebate you apply at the point of sale. So if you got the full $7,500, you would like take it off the price at the moment you got a loan or however you paid for it. Yeah. But very few vehicles are going to qualify. I think Chevy might be the only, because the Blazer doesn't qualify. Yeah, it's very limited who even qualifies for anything anymore. And the rules are super complicated, but it's something like 50% of everything has to be done in the US or from North America. And they added that North America term because, you know, like, I don't know, 80% of the cars or something from the big 3 are made in Mexico. So, you know, stuff like that. But the batteries still all come from South Korea or China or something like that. So it still is, so that's kind of, I'm really just curious what's going to happen with that. I think in California anyways, EVs are plentiful, right? Every other car is a Tesla basically. So, but the rest of the country, I don't know how that's going to pan out.
Yeah. I don't know. Joe, do you have any interest like with this $7,500 tax credit and the cars being almost half the price as when we bought them? Have you looked at any
specific Teslas
or anything? Is anything been tickling your fancy?
It's funny because I got that Model 3 and the plan was to just drive it till it fell apart, and I don't really have any plans on upgrading anytime soon. The top range is dipping down a little bit. I mean, it started at 310 and it's like 290 now. So that's why I was kind of interested in the Highland version if it came out and had a higher range.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? I think it does.
Yeah, it does. But,
is it over 400?
I think it's like 350 or something.
360. I think it's like 350 or something.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's still pretty good.
But it's Tesla 350, which means realistically 250 when you're on the road.
Yeah,
under ideal conditions.
I would love to be able to step up to like a Lucid or something like that. I just don't see me spending that kind of money on a car.
It's not worth it. If you were going to spend that much money, I wouldn't let you buy a Lucid. There'd be no way. I think Lucid's doing great stuff, but their high-end products are not the ones that I think are going to be great. It's going to be their lower-end ones because their battery and powertrain are just amazing. So they're going to be putting out 500-mile range small sedans for $60,000 probably in a couple of years.
Yeah,
aren't they in some financial trouble though?
They got that PIF money. I don't know. I've never heard of the Saudis going bankrupt. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that.
That's true.
People say that about Rivian all the time. I hear people say that about Rivian. Oh, I heard about their stock or something. And you're looking at it going, they have like a $7 billion order book from Amazon alone. Pretty sure that's good. Like most companies, if you had an order for $7 billion worth of stuff, I think you'd be fine. You'd be able to find a loan, Yeah. And by the way, it's Jeff Bezos back. Like Rivian, same thing. I'm like, they're not going anywhere. People are just, stock mongers and trying to do all that stuff. But the vehicle I would recommend, if you're going high end, like Lucid Air money, would be either the BMW 7 Series, if you can stomach how it looks on the outside, or the Mercedes EQS, because both of those are like in terms of luxury. I mean, they're what you would expect. BMW and Mercedes doesn't get better.
Oh, so I see why you say if you can stomach it.
Yeah, once you put it on the screen, it looks ugly. They both, I think, are ugly.
Does it have a kidney infection?
It has more than a kidney infection.
BMW has a kidney problem for sure. They're on dialysis or something.
This is now a lung infection. I mean, why do you need a big intake like that? There's no no air. Like.
Yeah. But again, on the inside, and that's what counts. Okay, guys, don't be superficial. On the inside, it's
I don't know.
Amazing. Same with the Mercedes. I think the Mercedes is ugly as well. But here, I have a theory on this. I think that rich people like ugly shit. So it's like you ever been to a rich person's house and they have all this gaudy, tacky crap everywhere?
It's gonna stand out.
Yeah, you're like, so I kind of have this theory is that's why they like it. But in terms of the rest of it, like it's and those are like massaging seats. Is this the one that has a 30-inch screen that pops down in the back?
Oh yeah, I have seen that.
No, that comes down from the ceiling.
Yeah, that might be an option. You probably wouldn't need that option, but.
Of course you would. All the people that I have in my back seats all the time. All my chauffeuring I do. They still have a weird tunnel there. Guys, make a flat floor. This is an EV.
Yeah, there's not like a So anyways, if you're looking at high-end luxury market, I mean, that was always the thing. Lucid was like, oh, we're going to compete with Mercedes, and then Mercedes came out with a really badass electric S-Class, and you're like, yeah, you're not competing with Mercedes anymore. Like, sorry guys, like it's just not going to happen.
I think at this point the thing that might get me to shift to a different car, Tesla or otherwise, is just something with ventilated seats. Being in Texas, I've never had a car with ventilated seats.
The new 3 front seats are ventilated.
Okay, that might be the
thing.
Me. And because I mean, I have heated seats, which is nice for like a month out of the year in Texas, but most of the time I'm like scalding my thighs against the side of the, so I'm trying to, I would like to have a ventilated seat.
The VinFast has ventilated seats on the front and back.
So what's a VinFast?
Yeah, so I just get a subscription for VinFast, right? Isn't that their thing?
No, they scrapped that whole plan. It's a Vietnamese car company that got the worst reviews of any vehicle ever, which I thought were unfair because I drove it. They had an event out here.
Oh, I've seen videos of like people driving it.
Honestly, I mean, I wasn't like, oh, this is a great driving vehicle, but I wasn't really upset at it either. Like it drove fine. And then my buddy
has a lot of weird quirks, but a lot of them were like software updatable quirks, right? Like weird turn signal things.
But they've also recently just updated all their suspension and stuff. I just drove a newer version recently, like a week or so ago. And I mean, for the price, I was like, this is actually pretty legit, dude. Like, and I think they were leasing them for like $200 a month or some shit like that. Like it was basically dirt cheap.
Doesn't BYD have some really cool cars right now?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are they even available here?
No,
they're not.
Can you buy this year?
Yes, you can. Yeah, VinFast, I believe, is just US. It's from Vietnam, but and they've been making gas cars, and then they, at some point, I don't know, a few years back, just kind of said, "Look, we need to go all in on electric," and just stopped everything, and went all electric. And so they've got a whole lineup, and they're funded by some mega billionaire, so like they're fine on money. But yeah. I mean, it's interesting. But one of the features that stood out to me was they have rear ventilated seats in a car that's like $60,000. I'm like, that's unheard of. You don't see that ever.
Should we all buy them and race them across America?
No, we should not. If you wanted to do that, they would let us do that for free. We would.
They'd be so excited about having someone in their vehicle.
Mm-hmm. I have actually seen a few people with them out and about in San Diego, because they're only in California right now. They're only selling. This is actually a smart strategy, I thought, and we can stop talking about VinFast after this. But one of the strategies they have is that they have to service these vehicles, and so like servicing them in the U.S. is a ridiculous feat. That takes years and years and years.
Tesla still hasn't figured it out.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, so they said, cool, we're only selling them in California. That's it. Like that's a big enough market. You can still sell a lot of vehicles there. And it's also a small enough location that you can actually reasonably service them. So that was pretty smart.
Dang. Well, should we get into things that we're looking forward to in the year 2024, gentlemen?
Sounds good.
Gentlemen. Should we just do this?
Man.
Well, who wants to start?
Let's go.
Okay, I'll do it. Yeah. I'm starting here. Sorry, I guess I'm taking it. No one, you guys do something.
Waiting on you.
What is 2024?
So 2024, obviously, I mean, the imminent future for me, I'm really, really excited about Astro Awards, obviously. I'm excited to see a bunch of these people in real life, and hang out with people, see people face to face. It's going to be really fun. And I'm just hoping that it, all the logistics work out and it ends up being as awesome as it needs to be and will be and should be. So that's one of the number one things I'm looking forward to. But I'd obviously say the next biggest thing I'm looking forward to is the next Starship launch. I mean, that's going to be crazy. I would say that Starship launch in 2024, like I said, I'm expecting it to be Q1, maybe Q2, hopefully. And I do have big expectations. I want to see the booster do a soft splashdown landing, or at least come back in one piece by the time it's re-entering and all that stuff.
Will it try to like hover or just?
It'll do like its landing profile and then just splash down. Yeah.
Got it.
Which I don't know if we'll be able to
just
see.
Lay down.
Yeah, I'll just bye, good night. I don't know if we'll be able to see it, from shore, because I don't know how far out and like the whole curve of the darn Earth type of thing. But the other one, and then obviously Starship, if it makes it through re-entry, would be, or like to re-entry, would be amazing. I would love to see that. But I'd say the other thing that I'm most looking forward to is Artemis 2, or Artemis 2.
I was going to ask if you think it's going to get off this year. I mean, it's scheduled for November.
Yeah,
it's an easy push into the next year. And
I know Berger's law. Eric Berger from Ars Technica. Berger law is that anything scheduled in December or maybe he says Q4 of the year is automatically a slip into the next year. So in space flight, and he's probably not wrong. I mean, I don't see many reasons. There's not many technical things. You know, I think everyone's happy with the performance from Artemis 1 and all the reviews on it looked great for the uncrewed test flight. And I don't think there's any major outstanding issues standing in the way of Artemis 2, but you never, by the time they get all the parts out there and everything's rolling out to the pad, you just never know. So I do expect, I wouldn't be at all surprised if it slips into 2025 at all. That just would be par for the course. So, but I am looking forward to that. If it happens in 2024, even just seeing a rocket that's capable, assembled out on the launch pad, assembled, capable, and will be taking humans to the moon imminently, like the actual physical hardware, that's really exciting.
Who's making that one?
That's like NASA's the main contractor, the designer of it, but it's Lockheed Martin is the Orion capsule. The Europeans are doing the
service,
the service module. Yeah, it is a service module. I'm blanking on.
It's got a different name though.
Yeah, the ESM exploration. I'm blanking right now. Boeing's the prime contractor on the booster, and then Northrop Grumman for the actual solid rocket boosters. Yeah, those are things that that's my list of things that I hope to see and would be really excited about in 2024. What about you, Joe?
I mean, Artemis 2 would be top of my list, obviously.
Would you go to it?
Say what now?
Would you go to the launch?
I would love to go to the launch. I was sad I couldn't make it to the last one.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah. I'd said it before, I never got to see the shuttle go off, and I want to see those solid boosters, man.
Yeah, a daytime launch would be amazing. I really hope it's daytime this time and not night. That would be awesome.
So somebody mentioned New Glenn. So they actually did reveal the actual booster of New Glenn, right? I saw an image of it.
There's pictures of like pretty well completed hardware and things looking like a launch is actually like way more around the corner than it has been, obviously, New Glenn is up there, and same with Vulcan, but New Glenn would actually be almost my.
Isn't Vulcan coming up soon?
It got pushed into January. It's supposed to happen on Christmas Eve, but it got pushed to January.
Q4, man.
Burgers rule.
Burgers law. Yep. Yep.
Okay, and everybody's asking about Optimus, the Tesla bot. They just had a video that came out yesterday for like their version 2 or something. I guess you could pull that up, but there's no specifics on it, so I don't know. I take that back. They have specifics about the different actuators and things like that, but in terms of like what it can actually do.
What are people expecting out of that? I mean, Elon always hypes things up and says all kinds of crazy stuff, but like, what's the consensus of what people think this thing actually is?
Okay, so I'm not going to speak to Optimus specifically, Bumblebee. But I did a video a while back that was about like humanoid robots, because Tesla's not the only people working on this. Obviously, there's Boston Dynamics and whatnot.
Right.
And my thing was, when I started it, it was like, what's the point of a humanoid robot other than just aesthetics? Because why limit yourself to what humans can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when I looked into it, it was kind of like, well, we have built a world for people that look like us in this form factor. So having a robot that's in this form factor would give it a general ability to do a lot more things than say another, specific robot might could do. And I started to really like the idea of like, if you had a robot that you could train to just do things around your house, like, wash the dishes and fold the laundry and let the dogs outside and stuff like that. Like, I could see that being really helpful. And I could see it obviously doing really helpful things in workplace environments and stuff for just like little rote movements and whatnot. But how you train these things is beyond me.
It still definitely walks with a stick up its butt, but its hands now and everything look way more impressive. But yeah, training is definitely going to be you got to have an AI that's.
Well, this is the big question right here is the hands. They have that competition every year to just design a hand. And it's like a giant robotics convention just for doing that, because it's so incredibly hard. Did you do a video on this, Joe? Where it's like in your hand or something like 17,000 nerve endings. And that's why, a robot has a hard time figuring out like the pressure for an egg versus a 50-pound kettlebell or something.
I mean, I don't think I've specifically talked about it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a big challenge with that. But I'm just kind of wondering what people are thinking. It's like, oh yeah, like I don't have to do dishes anymore, and sit around and I'll, or is it something else? Like I'm really curious. I don't see it. I don't see the big thing yet.
I don't quite either, and it is a long way to go still, I think. But
it'll be cool if and when.
I feel like we have waves of robots in our like sort of, you know what I mean, like in our cultural zeitgeist or whatever. Like it seems like in the 80s there were all these little robots, and then there was another wave maybe around like 2010, and now we're seeing it again, and they've never quite reached the I don't know, future expectations that we always have for them, but
it's like VR.
Maybe they will eventually. I don't know. It's like it has to get to where it can like see. Okay, so like just think about the next time you're washing the dishes, or even just loading the dishwasher. Think about if you had to manually think about each muscle that you have to flex,
right,
and where positionally in space your hands need to be to do all these functions and stuff. Like that's how a computer has to approach these things.
Yeah,
and so. I mean, maybe AI is getting to the point where you can literally just do it and it can like follow and do it itself. But
that's what I was going to say. Have you guys seen the Gemini, the Google's Gemini stuff demonstration that just came out like a couple days ago?
Actually, I've been seeing headlines, but I have not dug into it.
The one they faked?
They faked it?
Yeah.
How do you know they faked it?
The one, this is the ChatGPT competitor, right? And it's like they're like doing rock, paper, scissors, and it's like, oh, you're playing rock, paper, scissors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just Google, Google Gemini fake, and you'll see.
Just like the moon landing's fake. Am I gonna stumble into some conspiracy theory stuff?
It turns out like all Google demos, it was like pre-trained, and they edited the video and et cetera, and it just was not even close to what they showed. Like the rock, paper, scissors thing. They're saying they had to like type in a command. Okay, I'm going to be playing a game with my hands right now.
Oh, see, that's what I was so impressed about. I thought it was just literally being so intuitive about the world that it's observing that's what was impressive to me. It wasn't the fact that it could then infer something. It was the fact that it was like,
if you can read about it, there's all these breakdowns of, and there were the actual like engineering videos behind it showing exactly what they did and how it wasn't, real. And I think it says on there, it says like, oh, it, some of these images are sped up or something like that. And they're like, yeah, sped up, but also, include instructions that we didn't tell you we included, kind of a thing.
Right.
So there's sort of a bit of a controversy about that right now. I'm really,
to me though, like the whole robot thing, and if we want to include robots, Tesla, full self-driving stuff, like it all relies on this kind of technology actually getting to the point where it's intuitive, really truly has like a innate grasp of what it's doing and like what it's doing wrong and can correct for it. Like you can just simply say like, hey, you should have like stopped here. Like you should be able to just do that. And it has to be able to interpret and infer and learn from that. And until we're to that point, like with the robot around the house, imagine if every single day it unplugged your dishwasher or something, and you're like, don't do that anymore. And it's like, understood. And then just kept doing it. Like, like it has to be to that point.
Okay, I'm going to teach you how to do the dishes. You're like this. And it's like, cool. And just punches you in the face. Right. It's like, because these things hallucinate still. Yeah. It's interesting. The
best dish is no dish.
That's great.
Oh God.
I still kind of wonder, wasn't Elon the guy warning us about AI and now he's trying to sell us AI robots that we put in our house? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. You're like,
we're screwed.
Maybe let's not do that. But anyways, I think I'm with you, Jay. Like robots, I think are so far away still. It doesn't even seem. That's why I just kind of wonder, like, what's the point of this? I don't really get. Like, at some point, maybe this would be cool, or maybe in factories or controlled environments.
I think factories and like rote, movement type things. Also, doing things in environments that humans can't go to.
Sure.
Radioactive environments or in space.
Yeah, robot dogs, right? That's what they'll. I mean, but it's not. Kind of goes to your point about full self-driving. Like, will full self-driving ever really be here? In what we were promised. And the question is kind of like it's such a long road. That last 20%, like Tesla Autopilot is incredible, The full self-driving stuff.
0.1%.
You know what I mean? Like it's just so incredibly difficult to really solve for everything. So I kind of wonder, I mean, if it'll, I don't think it'll ever pan out the way it was promised, which is not uncommon for that to happen. But, you know, at some point, something will exist.
Can I do a quick FSD rant? Mini, real little one.
Please.
Rant time.
The road in front of my house was closed for like 5 months this summer. Same huge barrier. The navigation never figured it out. Like, that should be the number one thing. Like, you have to have navigation that's updating road closures, whether or not that's an input that the city does, whether or not it's a thing that like the car should just Waze. Well, it should just see it with its cameras and go, oh, that's a road closed sign. Noted. You know,
now everyone else knows that.
Yeah, update the system. Now the whole thing's up to date or whatever. Like, send it to the cloud. That's number one. Number two, one time I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to let it try navigating home where there's a huge orange fence across the entire road, giant road closed sign. I'm just going to see how long it takes it to like get up to there, realize, oh, I can't go here, turn around, like see what it does, right? I'm like, I'm just going to let it try getting home. It got to the point where I fully panic braked, screeching tires.
Oh, shit.
Was this close to the fence because it was absolutely going to drive me through a wet concrete construction zone and run through a giant fence that was clearing. How is there still that big of a immobile object it should have seen in front of it? And it was just going to what? How is this still innately this poor? Like, there's so many things that are so improving and doing better. But like, if we can't even see a giant road closure sign, something's wrong.
I still just want it to not do the automatic wipers when the door is open and I'm standing there. Like, I don't want to open the door to my car and it have dew on the windshield and it have just throw it at me. That still happens. So I'm just like,
oh, wow.
Come on. That's we can't figure that out. I don't trust any of this stuff. You know, I'm excited for what it means, but I think to the FSD point with the robots, it's kind of the same idea. Like, if you've tested or done any of the other FSD type things from other automakers, they are limited, right? It's like, only on the freeway where we have high definition LiDAR maps, et cetera, et cetera. And when it works incredibly well. It works beautifully. But they're not just saying, hey, go nuts, go down the road in front of your house towards a construction zone. They're going, no. We can only allow it in this because that's where we have a high degree of confidence it'll succeed. I think that that's how technology gets adopted, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like just something doesn't exist and then bang, it solves every problem. Like, no, there's always problems, there's always challenges, and it's a big long road until we hit the point where, even think of like air travel, right? Like, when I was a kid, I remember hearing about plane crashes all the time. Now it's like, if there's one plane crash a year, it's like, oh my God, stop the press. What's going on, right? So I think it'll be one of those things, but that's where I question the strategy of like everything all at once versus, only in these circumstances where we know it'll work. I think that would be certainly more doable. And if you look at the other companies out there, which I don't know if you saw, Cruise Automotive, which was one of the like a robo-taxis, is just shut down. After like hitting somebody and dragging them down the road for, 200 feet or something like that. Yeah, it's bad. So they're completely shut down. GM's like, nope, not doing self-driving anymore. Uber shut their program down a few years back. So self-driving, I think, is still a ways away. Same with for like this, I just hop in my car, it does everything, But in between here and there, there's so many benefits. Like you're saying, it's getting better and better. So I think it's still worthy pursuit. But like, if people quit their job in 2019 thinking their Model 3 was going to go be a robotaxi and make them money next year, like I hope they didn't do that, because that future is still way far off.
I will say though that seeing how quickly we went from AI being like a thing you just hear about to like everywhere, it happened in the second ChatGPT like became a thing. All of a sudden, like it's everywhere and it's getting better. And you're just going, okay, this did switch overnight from like no one's using stuff like that
in the public's eye. Right? Because like I remember when GPT-2 came out, and that was like 5 years ago, right? So already back then, I remember looking at it going, now granted, there wasn't a beautiful, easy little interface. You had to like know how to code on how to use it.
API.
So some of these things have been, but yeah, I mean, when it exploded, it was.
I think I think is a similar thing like that will happen at some point for full self-driving, where like, it's almost not solved, but it all of a sudden a threshold gets crossed and an acceleration happens and an understanding happens and a breakthrough and all these things finally kind of all come to alignment and and it's there.
Yeah. Well, I think those two things go hand in hand. Like the sort of like, forgive me for saying AGI, but that sort of like general intelligence thing that the robots could benefit from and the AI would eventually get to. Like I think that's the level that the computers and the neural nets have to get to before real autonomy can happen.
I think Elon
has to think like we think.
Elon had a thing, he talked about it a long time ago. Like, when is it going to be ready? Like, well, I don't know. Is 999 trips out of 1,000 without a single error okay? Or, because that one error could be a fatal error. Yeah. So what is the level of tolerance? Like, no technology is perfect. All software has bugs. Glass is glass breaks, right? Like there's always these, like, software will always be buggy. And that is just a truth that will be, it's like a law of physics at this point. So some software is so sufficiently not buggy that we accept it, like autopilot on airplanes, right? Like the pilots don't fly during the flight and there's auto takeoff, auto land. I mean, I don't think they use all that, but point being, like, we trust it in with our lives in a lot of ways. When will this reach that point is the question. And I still think it's pretty far off. So yeah. So with the Tesla bot, the humanoid robot, I think it's the same kind of idea, like, when is it going to not punch you in the face when you ask it to do dishes? Like, it has to get to that point first,
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the AI pin, by the way? Mm-hmm. I thought this was kind of a cool thing. Did you see? Yeah.
I did actually.
Apparently it's out for sale now. It's like $700 or something. It's stupid expensive. I actually love this idea. I don't think that I'd drop $700.
Explain it to people.
So, and maybe you could bring it up. It's from a company called Humane. I forget their URL. It's like hu.man.e.
Yeah, it's like that. Really funky.
Yeah, but it's the idea, essentially, like a post-smartphone world is what they're envisioning. And if you've seen the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix and ScarJo, you'll completely understand it. It's the same concept, but you have like a pin you wear that replaces your smartphone, and
you become sexually attracted to it.
I mean, already.
Just like Her.
It didn't take much,
Yeah.
Okay, put a pin in that. I do have something I need to share with you guys here in a second. But
Ben's dating a robot.
Yeah.
That's what the Tesla bot's good for.
So you wear this pin. It has speakers, a camera, and speakers and a camera and a microphone. And so you can ask it questions.
And a laser.
You can, what's that?
And a laser.
Yeah, like
a laser projector.
Oh, and the projector, right. So you can I think you can do phone calls on it. You can do text messages on it. You can ask it stuff like, navigate me to the closest Starbucks. And it has the projector that you put your hand out. And apparently you can interact with it on your hand too. Have you seen that? So you can, like, how you move your hand, or if you touch your fingers together, it'll like click a button or something like that. I think this is a totally just, bleeding edge kind of new concept. I don't know if it'll take off, but I, for one, love the idea of a future where we're not just, glued to our smartphones 24/7. So I just thought it was a really cool approach.
Instead, we're just glued to our hands.
Yeah. Just walking around. Along these same lines, and not to get off topic if you have comments on it, but the Ray-Ban glasses, have you seen those?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My buddy Dan had those. Incredible. I was blown away at how good the audio was, the speaker was, the camera. It was amazing. And they look just like regular glasses.
They look cool. I know. I kind of want them. I don't know if I go back and forth if I want them or not. I just think it's like use any of the camera stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd use them like AirPods, but
right.
Maybe I would.
What I don't understand about the smart glasses in general is why they don't use like bone conductive speakers. Yeah. Because you want to be able to hear, but you could be able to hear like the real world and the whatever world.
Yeah.
At the same time.
I mean,
that.
Have you tried them? Like it just has a little tiny speaker right above your ear.
Yeah, no, I've heard they're really good. I always think like I mean, if you got it going right past that spot anyway, why not just have a little bone conducting?
Right. It's you're right there next to your temple. Like, it's already pressing against your temple anyway. It's probably already
exactly.
maybe inadvertently the little speaker in there is halfway doing that, and that's why it sounds so good.
Yeah,
could be. What about the AI pin? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Okay. I've covered this actually, so I'm pretty familiar with it. Okay, there's two things. The whole always on camera thing is going to be an adjustment for people, because people we just act different when we're on camera.
Hey, watch me pee.
Well, exactly. Yeah. The other thing is, I get the desire to get away from screens. Obviously, we're a little bit too screened these days, and wanting to get away from that, I get it. But I think one of the reasons why we have gone toward, doing everything through a screen and texting instead of calling and stuff like that is because, like, I don't know. I think that you can convey more visual information from something on a screen than like having something talk to you in your earbud or something to do this and do that. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm out walking and I've got my earbuds in and like somebody texts me and it's like, a message from someone and it's like it interrupts my music and it like goes on and on. It's like, it's just like super annoying to me. Also, like, to communicate with it, you have to talk.
Yeah.
So you have to do that in public. What if you're in a loud place?
What if you're on a train in Japan,
a lot of noise,
where you're not supposed
to
be
talking?
In
Japan, exactly. So I'm very curious about it, and I wouldn't even mind having one and trying it, but I still think it's kind of limited right now.
Very early days.
What do you guys think, while we're on this, because we're kind of talking future talk, what do you guys think about the Apple
the Vision Pro?
Vision Pro.
The goggles or whatever?
People are going to call me a fanboy. I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Really?
I think I'm willing to spend the money on it. It's a ridiculous price, but like everything that I've heard from, it's like $3,500.
Jeez.
I know, but like I really think that that's where things are gonna go.
Yeah.
And everybody, like, okay, so a buddy of mine's got his hand on one. Told me about his experience. He said he pulled up something, I forget what, a movie or whatever, but he said you were actually able to go in and pick a theater. He's in New York, so he picked some theater in New York, and it put you in the theater.
Wow.
While you're watching this movie. Cool. And they have this thing called Share Play, I believe is what it's called. So like if somebody else had one, they could be sitting next to you
watching,
and you can pick what seat you want to sit in the theater.
That's crazy.
And like a whole bunch of people can just join you. And like, I know it's not the same thing. But I do think like the way the pass-through mode on it, being able to just have like screens anywhere you want and just move things around, I'm excited for it. I do think it's just a first step in that direction, but
the number one use case for me where I would absolutely love that is when I'm editing videos on a plane, and like if you're sitting there and if you don't happen to get the upgrade to first class and you're back there and the laptop, you can't even quite open the screen enough, and like you're literally like this and you're like trying so hard. Just imagine being able to like just sit there and have like 6 4K screens for your editing bay on a plane, and I mean that would be incredible.
Forget even being on a plane, just having that on your desk would be great. Like
or on your couch.
Did Marquez do a thing with that where that's kind of what he demoed, or was that a Microsoft one? I forget, but there was something.
I think Marquez did it, but he was talking about how like it kind of sees the keyboard. So if you have an actual keyboard, it'll you can see it and you can use it just like normal.
Oh, right. It's not connected.
But you can have as many screens up as you want,
See, that would be really cool. To me, like, I saw these the 6K like Apple monitors that I adore. I think they're like the best monitor ever made, but they were like $5,000 or something absurd. Like absolutely preposterous. Yeah, and that was 4 years ago or something that I bought them, and I still love them. I still think they're the greatest screen. But imagine if you could spend half that, or a third of that, really. And have like infinite, because as long as the pixel density is high enough that you don't really see pixels, you have virtually as much screen real estate as you want. And that to me has always been the thing: the refresh rate, the delay between action and reaction, and the pixel density are the three things that have been holding VR and AR back for me. It's that all of them. Like I hate seeing a bunch of pixels. I hate when there's any lag, and I hate when like it just, I don't know, when the refresh rate's so low, you just see the frames, blinking almost at you, and it's
I really want.
So this might be the one where, like, when Retina display came out on an iPhone, I think for the first time, and I remember being like, whoa, this is like, you can't really see the pixels. This is great. Like, once it's that with AR and VR, then it might.
I really like the idea of AR, but I want it in those Ray-Ban glasses. I want to not look like I have a computer strapped to my face. I want to walk down the street.
It'll definitely get there.
And just as I look over, a little, Yelp review of the restaurant I'm looking at pops up or something like that. You know what I mean? I want that kind of.
It's the same. I think this is to me an iPhone moment. Like the first iPhone, when it first came out, you could see clearly where this idea is going.
Yeah.
And it was controversial. And a lot of people were like, I remember blog after blog and post after post, and Reddit was always like, iPhone versus the BlackBerry something has keys, and like everyone was like determined that is the only way forward is with keys and email or whatever, like whatever their thing was at that time. And no one could quite picture that this will be so prolific that you can't imagine a world without it, and you can't imagine what this phone could do now, only 15 years later, compared to the original. And I think technology, as we know, always accelerates, and battery, like right now it's only like an hour and a half or 2 hour battery life with that big chunky battery pack. I think by generation 4 or 5 it'll already be like half the size, twice the power,
it'll get there,
5 times the battery life or whatever.
Well, and eventually you'll just be able to install a port on the back of your head and just jack it directly in. Sleep in this gel pod.
Oh yeah, give it to me, give me the Matrix.
Okay. I want to play something. So have you guys played with how deep into ChatGPT are you?
I dabble.
Ankle deep.
Ankle deep, yeah.
Have you done the thing where it will just speak to you and you speak back to it? Okay.
No.
So now with ChatGPT, it has the ability to talk like a Siri kind of a thing, but it uses ChatGPT, so it's obviously much more verbose and able to understand what you mean very well. But it also can do images. You can like take a photo and say, "What is this?" I do this with my kid's toys. He he has like some old Transformer thing, and he wants to know the name of it. I'm like, I have no idea. So I take a picture. It's like, oh, that's this one from this series, or it could be this one from this series. So ChatGPT can now see and hear just with the app. But I want you to hear the voice that it uses. And I don't remember if I chose this. If I had an option, I would have chose this. But I want you to hear this voice and tell me if it sounds familiar at all. If I can get it to do it again. Okay, here. And I'll kind of show it to you. So this is what it looks like when it's thinking.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. I've got the YouTube live stream up, so it's double playing. Okay, try it again. All right, so it's thinking now.
Okay.
Can you read me that story one more time? Still thinking.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Well, good. The robots aren't taking over anytime soon.
Here's the story again.
Okay.
Title: Jack and Theo's New Dinosaur Adventure. In a cozy little town, two brothers, Jack and Theo, often dreamt of returning to the magical dinosaur world. One starlit night, they decided it was time for another.
You recognize the voice?
Hand in hand, they stepped through the magical portal in their backyard.
It sounds like the lady that runs that Serial podcast.
Greeted them with joy.
Is it your wife?
Thrilling news. A mysterious island had emerged, filled with unknown
Scarlett Johansson
and ancient secrets. Jack, Theo, and...
Why?
So when I first heard that, I'm like, come on. They're literally like, it was the movie and now it's reality. Like, no way. And I remember asking, like, what was your voice modeled after? Oh, my voice is a blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bullshit. This is Stargrill 100%. Yeah, anyways, that was a bedtime story that Jack and I created, is what you were just listening to. It's really, I don't know, I'm deep into it. I'm actually I think I'm going to, speaking of next year, create a new channel that is focused on AI stuff, but trying to narrow it down. So I'm thinking for content creation, because I've been going so deep into all this stuff. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen 11 Labs, where you can clone your voice and do that stuff.
Yeah, you showed it to us. Yeah,
unreal. And so I'm looking at this going, wow, this is kind of a moment in time And my background working in tech for 20 years and being focused on data science specifically, I'm like, I think I have something to say here that might be useful to people. So I think I'm going to create a new channel. I don't know what to call it yet, like AI-nomics or something. I don't know, but doing something along those lines for next year, because I'm just, to me, this is where I'm like, this is really amazing. And it always, I love all the stuff in the meat space, they call it, where like the digital world meets the physical world, like the AI pin or those, they're not called HoloLens. What's it called? The Vision Pro, like that kind of stuff. Yeah. So much more interesting to me than all the other, like, random new email marketing tool automatically makes you $1 million a month. Like, yeah, bullshit. Yeah. Right. So I'm thinking about doing that next year because I think I'm just super geeked on it and it'd be fun to just have it. But I have learned that taking your audience, which followed you for a specific thing, and then trying to ask them to follow you for a separate thing doesn't work on the same channel. And it came to light to me when I was doing some research on it, and I thought about TV shows. Like, imagine if you were watching House Hunters, and all of a sudden it was a cooking show. And you're like, what the hell is this?
Right? I have the perfect example.
Yeah.
Top Gear in the UK. When the original 3 guys left.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still darn close to the same show, but it's totally different. And I stopped watching it.
Yes. Yeah. So if you go from Fixer Upper, to tire repairs, you're going, what the hell? This is not what I signed up for. I'm not watching this. So I think pivoting a channel is very difficult if it's based around an idea, and so for me, I'm like, I'm going to create a new one. I think I've got something to say here that'll be helpful to people, and I'm just super geeked on it. So I love talking about it and love experimenting with these things. So
yeah, it's cool.
So that's what you're looking forward to in 2024. Anything else? Because we're kind of doing this roundabout, real long rant in the middle with a bunch of AI stuff. But what else in 2024 have you been?
This sounds like a normal OLF experience here.
Yeah,
it's,
well, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to our annual catch up again next year.
We should start planning that now.
Yeah, we totally should. I don't think in the like EV space. I mean, the Kia EV9 is coming out, which I think is a big deal. I don't think people underestimate how big of a deal that's going to be, because maybe in the Tesla world, we think of like Tesla's owning everything in the EV space, and that is true. But in the SUV world, if you ask any soccer mom about a Kia Telluride, they will lose their shit. They are so excited and they love it so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh my God, you got one? How'd you get it? Oh, I flew to Colorado and drove it back. You're like, Jesus Christ, like, really? So Kia has a real stranglehold on this market, and the EV9 is mind-blowingly good. It's a 3-row SUV. You can have captain's chairs in the middle. It's a full-size SUV, not like a Model Y SUV. Like, it's a full-blown, like Rivian R1S sized SUV, and it's good range, good price, built by. I mean, so in the EV space, I think that's the most exciting thing now. Roadster, I don't know. I mean, I still just keep, everyone's like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, I don't know, because remember last year they said, yeah, next year we're going to have the Cybertruck and the Roadster. Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. So if that comes out, that'll be amazing. Even if I don't get one, I don't care. I just want to see one and drive it. But the Kia EV9, I think, is going to be a big story for next year. We'll see.
So to wrap things up, I want to do it this way because I have a really good way to actually, we're normally not great at segues, but let me tell you, I've got one. In the chat, I see people saying, why don't they just? So.
Why don't they?
What does that mean?
Why don't they just do a why don't they just? Yeah. And I am telling you right now, I am in the middle of my second why don't they just video. And we're
I saw that you co-opted it a little bit.
I stole a little bit from ourselves.
I'll allow it.
Okay, good. Basically the premise is like, I get questions asked often of like, the first one is why don't they just launch rockets from mountains or from the equator?
Yeah.
Kind of using the Earth to its full advantage, the planet we live on. And the other one that I always see are things like, why aren't we using jet engines or scramjet engines or, maglev, like launching systems and all the, tunnel to shoot a rocket out of the tunnel, like all these ideas.
Crane.
It's been an insane amount of math to like really see like how much energy does it actually take to like lift Starship when it's fully fueled, like all these things. it's fascinating and it's really fun. And I think we're gonna do the script read through tomorrow now, the final like script read through on that one, because it's like 16 pages long. So it's a long one, really, really in depth, but I love it. So that's what I'm working on, and that's my Why Don't They Just? Do you guys have anything else?
I have a Why Don't They? Okay, I'm reading a book now. One of my favorite authors. I'm a big sci-fi geek, but I'm specifically into the near future sci-fi stuff. So it's kind of like this show, but like we talked about just so. The latest book, there's a 2-book series. It was called Delta V. Was the first one. It was about asteroid mining, and then this one, they're back on Earth, and they're talking about a lunar mission, and they were talking about launching things from the moon using the spin thing, like there was that company that, what's it called?
Spin launch.
Yeah. Spin launch, yeah. And I remember, I think we had talked about it, like, yeah, it takes way too much energy, it's impossible, blah blah blah. Like by the time you get it spinning fast enough, it'll turn into goo. You know, it's just gravity is too strong. But is this a thing that anyone's talked about for, say, Mars or for the moon or something like that, with like very little gravity using spin launch there? Because I think that might.
Well, it's the little gravity and no atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the bigger problems with spin launch, is that it has to it hits in order to get to orbital velocity, it would just explode the second it leaves the thing, because it would just
I'm saying
vaporize in the air.
Yeah.
From the moon, yeah, exactly. It's more likely. But,
okay.
Tell me why don't they just then, Joe?
Do what now?
Why don't they just that?
Why don't they do that on the moon?
Why don't they just spin launch off the moon?
Because we have to land there first. No, I definitely think, like, I've heard. I actually haven't heard the spin launch thing, but like mag railguns.
Yeah.
Using those on the moon, because
similar idea.
Similar idea. Yeah, you could just have like a sled, and it could just take off from the surface of the moon. There's no atmosphere to get in the way or anything, and less gravity to go against.
Yeah, in the book they're using it because there's an asteroid. I think it's a real asteroid. It's called Ryugu or something. Like, so in the book they like went and did a mining mission on it, and they have all these materials in cislunar space, they say. So they brought in like thousands of tons of all the crap from the asteroid. And so they're using that to like make things in space. And then they were talking about how are they going to launch missions back to the asteroid, and they were launching from the moon. So it's like, we use a rocket to get to the moon, and then from there we can send stuff off. I thought that seems legit. Like, it seems like a pretty legit idea, but I don't know. So
yeah, and the video that I did on the possibly like putting up space shades to shield Earth from solar radiation to cool off the Earth. I did a big mega project video on that a while back, and I was like calculating how many launches, even like from the Starship, would be required, and it was like 8 million launches or some ridiculous thing.
I remember that.
But if you had some kind of automated thing on the moon that could like just melt down lunar dust into like these space shades, and then it's like fire them out from this
frisbee.
You could literally just do that, and that's almost feasible.
Yeah,
it's more feasible anyway.
I love that. That's why I love these near future books, because I mean, it's pretty legit. Like, it's pretty real what they're talking about, and it's well thought. Like The Martian is probably the greatest near future
Martian,
sci-fi
Artemis
book ever. Yeah.
Hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
I'm actually working on a video right now. It's going to come out about halfway through January, but I'm trying to predict what the world will look like in 2100, the end of the century. And so actually a lot of what we're talking about obviously goes into that, like what kind of things will actually, we could discuss that right now if you want, actually.
Yeah.
But like we talked about autonomous cars. I think they will crack it by then.
Oh yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Robots I haven't gotten into just yet, or AI, but
self-flying like little drones that take us people and things all over the place. Like, that's already ramping up.
What about solar space power, where you have like a giant solar thing and then it just beams it down with microwave?
Hey, wait, we didn't finish the moon thing quick. Can I give a quick little?
Go ahead.
And then we'll pop back into this, and then we'll eventually pop out after our, what are we at, like 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
Okay, so the biggest thing about anything launching from the moon, and anything if you're using the moon as like a waypoint to get into deeper space, right? That's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
To get down to the moon alone, it's like 1,000 meters per second of delta V, something like that. To go from passing by to doing to circularize and to land it's something like 1,500 meters per second. the difference between going to the moon and getting out into the solar system in general, like, you know, getting out into orbiting the sun, basically it takes about as much delta V from Earth to get to Mars as it does to land on the moon. So like there's not a huge, so unless on the moon you're having a fuel, you know, like resources on the moon that you're using from the moon to do things like to build a rocket, to make propellant, to do all these things. Now, if there was a situation where like you're constantly going to and from like, you know, a certain asteroid or whatever, and you have a reusable sled or something, whatever, blah, 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 and you maglev sling it or something like that, it could, there could be use cases like, but it, kind of like Joe said, we have to first be able to like return to the moon, do all these things, have this infrastructure on the moon, and all that has to pay off rather than just building a slightly bigger rocket on Earth that can just do it anyway in one go, instead of like it'd be a long time before those efficiencies start to cross over where the investment and the infrastructure outweighs like the infrastructure makes it more profitable, you know,
or there's a return on it.
Exactly.
Now you're talking specifically like the Earth to moon to Mars thing,
or Earth to moon to anywhere, really.
Okay.
Like maybe if we were constantly going to Saturn or something, you know, something that just is a huge, like that is a giant leap in delta V from, you know, just going to the asteroid belt or something. Then maybe it is worth it over time to launch from the moon every time or whatever. Like land on the moon, refuel, do the thing, and then sling it off with a slingshot, you know, or something. Yeah.
You know, it'd be cool if one of the other concepts in the book that follows in this line is the idea of moving, and maybe Bezos already talked about this, like moving heavy manufacturing out to space, so that way it doesn't like pollute the environment and stuff like that. But I think it's such a silly concept. Like in the book, it makes sense because they already have thousands of tons of resources they've mined from an asteroid, so they can like manufacture stuff in space and then send it back to Earth manufactured. But like to like send materials up to space to manufacture them and send it back down seems like a very good way to waste a ton of money.
Okay, so we were talking though about the 21st or 22nd century.
2100.
Yeah.
2100. So AI, self-driving cars, flying things. What else was on your list there?
Well, the other one that I've covered so far, I'm still working on it. This was supposed to be shot yesterday.
Oh, I know how this goes.
Still working on it. But just look like what the internet would look like, and how we would interact with the internet and with each other through. So there is the stuff like the smart glasses, that whole idea. Everybody always goes toward like Neuralink and that kind of thing for just like direct, internet access to the brain kind of thing. But I think that there will be a non-invasive alternative to that. I found an article or a study that was done this year where they were able to do brain scans of people while they were looking at something, and an AI was able to like read through all the noise in the signal and was able to reproduce the image that these people were looking at.
Wow.
Dang.
That has happened this year.
Whoa.
So reading people's minds.
Yeah.
So you can just obviously interpolate, like, where is that going? Is that going to get better or worse? It's going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, where does that go?
Better,
Like, that's
cheaper.
how I have to think about like all of these things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we have a major battery breakthrough by then, and just power is ubiquitous and wireless and infinite, you know? Like it still seems silly that we have to plug things in. You know, I understand that there's a lot of physics involved, but like that would be a cool break for an 8 years.
Even a proper like 2x in output, like density, you know, like to be able to unlock air travel more, you know, with EVs.
Mm-hmm.
Or it really need to be more like a 5x, like, but like we're not talking like a 100x where all of a sudden like something this big is powering your whole house for a year, you know, but like, but you know, something feasible like a 3 or 4 time increase would just be so big on so many things.
Yeah.
And the other one was I don't remember. Keep talking.
Solid state batteries are heading in that way, and apparently Samsung's cracked the nut on that already, but we haven't seen it in real life. So.
Fusion. Fusion better be on your list of.
Ooh,
by then,
that's a good question.
By then, if we don't have fusion energy figured out by 2100, I quit.
So just let me step back just real quick. what I have to look forward to in 2024 is we probably gonna be doing a lot more sketch stuff. Like me and my team, we've actually been like getting together and having writer sessions and like coming up with ideas for sketches for upcoming videos. And it's probably not going to happen on this one because it's going to be coming up too fast. But one of the ideas for a sketch about 2100 was like me having a conversation with a version of me that traveled back in time from 2100, and the 2100 guy is like, "Oh, there's fusion," and I'm like, "Oh, cool, yeah, you got fusion." Well, I mean, in about 20 years. Well, I think that, yeah, I think we'll crack it by then, but I don't know if it would be as ubiquitous and like what like the main source of energy for the world. I think the economics of it are going to be challenging, you know, like we had that everybody's like all excited because we got whatever it was at the test lab where they got more energy out than they put in, but not really, because like all the energy that was used to like make the laser to make it happen, it didn't really come out on top. So I think it's going to be little increments like that, and eventually they'll get to where it's like, okay, it is literally more coming out of it than going in. And
have you seen the one that acts almost like a boxer engine, where it takes like 2 plasma rings and shoots them at each other, and then then it like comes back?
That company?
That one to me is really unique.
Yeah.
Like,
Iron Man 3,
like
right?
pulsing.
That was Iron Man 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think we'll figure it out, and AI will come in to tell us how to do it. You know,
that's an interesting question. Right? Yeah, I wonder how many jobs will be gone by then. Probably a lot.
Because of Tesla bots, because of Optimus Primes.
No, just from the, one of the fascinating things about the AI stuff is it's almost like the creative and white collar jobs are the first ones to go. And I think when everyone was first talking about it, that was not what they thought. Like being a hairstylist, I don't see that going away by 2100. Like I think we'll still have people cutting other people's hair, or like being a bartender, or being a plumber even.
Oh,
like
I disagree.
You disagree?
Maybe plumber.
Well,
maybe, but
do you remember
bartenders are already going away with robots and stuff? Like there's already like robotic bartenders.
Oh, that's terrible.
There's already like
who wants to go to that? Would you go to that?
I do.
Oh,
there's a cool place in Japan where it's literally like
the best part.
Literally robots.
The best part about a bartender is all the stories and the shit talking you do. Come on.
You just showed us AI talking to you, sharing a story. You don't think a robot can do that too?
That is true. There was a movie that not many people like, but my wife and I like, called Passengers, where they had this exact thing. So I give you that. It was Michael Sheen, I think his name was, and the actor, and he's a robot bartender. And anyways, yeah, it's very. He's
was it the one with like
Chris Pratt and
and Jennifer Lawrence, and they're the only people on the ship. All kinds of problems with it, but it was a whatever.
Spoiler.
And he's sitting there polishing a glass, and Chris Pratt's like, "Why are you polishing a glass? I'm your only customer." He's like, "Trick of the trade. People get nervous if I'm just standing here looking at you." I'm like, God, genius. Like,
but that's what an AI would do, is they would like find images of bartenders and be like, they're always cleaning things.
I think that's too soon. I think humanity moves so much slower. Some of those things will exist, but to be ubiquitous and everywhere, I doubt it.
So that's a big part of my video is like, will it be possible? Sure. Yeah. Will it be everywhere? Will it affect your lives?
Take it over? Will it
I'm trying to make it be like what would life be like in 2100? Not necessarily like what's the cutting edge technology, but like how would our lives be different by then?
I think self-driving will be solved by then for sure. I think it'll be, you don't drive, you just click a button, and maybe you do drive, but like, or you have your own car, but it drives for you. I could totally see that being by then. I don't see it being in the next 5 years,
Yeah. Well, a question that I had was, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but do you think that autonomous robotaxis could actually be a boon for rail, especially like high-speed rail between cities? Because isn't it always like the last mile problem? Like you can take a train somewhere, but then you got to find a ride for something. But if you had like ubiquitous robotaxis that could get you from the train station to your house or something.
Yeah, it is a good question.
I mean, it kind of already exists with Uber and whatnot, but
yeah. That's a good question.
I would love to see rail like take off more and be more ubiquitous. It's just so hard in the US with our vast geography, but
that is
West Coast, East Coast, like
Yeah.
Why can't we do it in those areas before it's too like we keep filling in more and more land. It's going to be harder and harder to find a place to put these trains. And we got to get this infrastructure going. And even if it, right now we're using 2 steel beams basically, and in the future we might switch to something else, hyperloopy thing or whatever.
The maglev train is a popular
maglevs, exactly. But I mean, at least having that like land clear and the land rights to these, these systems it's so hard now. What's it going to be like in 100 years if we don't have it figured out? We're screwed.
Yeah, I really hope population collapse. The Texas one going.
I wonder.
The Texas one, the Florida one.
Yeah. I wonder about airship travel, like dirigibles or whatever. Yeah. Whatever the one is that has the solid frame. I kind of like this idea. Imagine like you want to go fly across the U.S. like a tour of Yosemite or something.
Ship.
It's like a cruise ship in the sky, and it's silent and just calm and serene. And
I love airships actually.
What?
I love airships. I would love to see them actually happen.
Especially for a cool thing. I think for shipping, for transcontinental shipping, like I think airships have a real chance of actually being more prolific than
in terms of cost per mile, they're incredibly efficient. But it just takes forever, right? I could fly.
But it can be faster than an ocean freight, though. That's the thing.
You mean over the sea or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like if I needed to fly something to your house today, I could run to FedEx and a plane would take it to you in 2 hours.
Oh yeah. No, I'm saying like instead of giant ships like across the ocean, which is the most common way to ship mass goods.
Man, but the ships can hold so much.
Yeah.
For an airship to even come close to that would be ridiculously big. It would be like football stadium sized.
Hundreds of them.
Yeah. I've heard the argument that they'd be really good for getting to like emergency areas and disaster situations because they don't really need like a runway or anything. They just kind of come down.
Yeah. I think that's the vertical takeoff and land drones. The VTOL drones. I think that'll be
Yeah.
What were you saying there, Joe?
Oh, well, one of the problems with no. One of the problems with the airships is that like using them for cargo is that when they drop off cargo or whatever that weight is, they have to counter ballast. So they have to like bring on, like they were even talking about having like landing areas where they would drop off cargo, but at the same time like pump in water or something to just like just to rebalance everything.
Just pick up more cargo.
Yeah, well, anyway, that's an issue they still need to solve.
Logistically, that's not always the way it works. Is you don't always bring
But they're also working on like compression systems, so the helium in the balloon can be like pulled in and compressed, so it reduces the amount of lift and stuff.
Yeah.
So they're working it out. But anyway.
Well, gentlemen, we are 2.5 hours into this podcast. If you're still one of how many people are watching this thing?
Do we like talking to each other or something?
Well, we do miss each other. It's true. There's 900 people watching. There's only 119 likes. Smash that. I'm being the YouTuber now. What are you guys thinking? I am curious. Like, I'm very curious how this episode will perform. I mean, it's been a year, so it's fun to see that people showed up and wanted to hear us ramble again. That's awesome. Yeah. That's super fun.
No, I'm not kidding. I get asked like once a week if we're ever gonna like get back together or something, and I'm like, I swear we're trying.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. I'm not just saying that.
I know. Well, but you have a podcast.
Do I?
Conversations with Joe.
Yeah. Okay. So look, you were talking about this year and next year, what you're looking forward to and everything. I actually just put out a video on my TMI channel for the first time since May.
I saw
it yesterday that talks about this. But like 2023 has just been like a big transitional year, like a lot of under the hood stuff on the channel and like getting my team organized and everything. And I'm looking forward to 2024 being the year that like all that stuff starts to come to fruition. So I kind of stepped away from both TMI and the podcast. I think we're going to be bringing the podcast back, and it might be a little bit different than it was before, but it's still there. It's just kind of been on hiatus. But yeah,
I felt that way about 2022. That's when I was investing a lot in like all the Texas stuff and changing a lot of things in the van build and all these things. It was just so crazy and so much work, and so like it wasn't paying off immediately and all these things. And finally, like on our end, when the first launch was still really stressful for Starship, but the second one was awesome. Our stream was incredible, and it was great. It did pay off, and like to have that finally be like, yeah, this is it. Like we did it. It was really, really good. So those investments, it's so hard. Like pulling teeth sometimes.
23 has been my least favorite year of the pandemic. 2020. I like what Nate Bargatze said. 2020 is his favorite year. They said there were UFOs and no one even cared. Like, yeah. 24. Funny. Hopefully it'll be better for all of us because 23 is not my favorite at all.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Oh, well. I'll tell you more later. There's more to that story.
Well, we're all growing and changing and, growing into real adults now and all the things. So
trying not to.
Yeah. Well, is this goodbye for now?
I think it is.
Well, people are already dropping off. They can see the writing on the wall and
they can feel it.
Jumping ship.
We gave them 2.5 hours though.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And not even after that comment about hitting the like button, not a single person did. That
out of spite.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe I just need to refresh.
How dare you tell me what to do?
Oh, I just needed to refresh. 613.
Look at that.
Oh, mine says 84.
All right, guys. Great seeing you.
We are still like, all right, hey, and I'm gonna run the outro thing, even though it's like subscribe and all these things and like all these things that are completely
There's no music
irrelevant.
on it though. Let me try to play the music for you.
Well, here I got this. Yeah, and you play the music. I don't know. Well, here we can run the intro. That's what I'll do.
Don't get left behind.
Don't get left behind.
Don't be left behind. Is that one of those